Chapter 16-18. For the sake of Gu Tianqing, the astral world would not attack the upper realm for the time being, so it would be relatively peaceful for a period of time. However, after experiencing 2 invasions, Jun Changshao felt powerless. He did not even have the gaming experience, and this was because he was too weak. What should he do? He must become stronger. The storyteller provided Jun Changshao with a path to become stronger, which was to start interstellar navigation and travel the universe. Not now. Because of the restrictions of the main mission. Therefore, the first thing to consider was to develop the sect into an immortal sect. The arranged battle between Master and Gu Hongzhenren is coming soon. How can I leave the upper realm? There were too many things bothering Jun Changshao, so he had no choice but to stay in the upper realm, even if he desperately wanted to reunite with Gu Zhaoxi. Brother. You were born into a good family. As your brother, I'm happy for you. It's just that, Jun Changshao said seriously, when we reunite, I won't be weaker than you. Some people would think that after Go Sheng learned that Goa was Gu Zhaoxi, he would shamelessly suck up to him, but in fact, after experiencing 2 incidents, he felt that his cultivation was too weak and decided to work hard. Rely on others. In the end, it was better to rely on himself. Moreover, Gu Zhaoxi's father was very strong, but was his system weak? Rather than saying that the astral world's first fleet did not give Jun Changshao a chance to suck up to him when they invaded the upper realm, he recognized his own shortcomings. A few days later, Gongsun Ruoli came to the sect of all times. It's over here. I'm going outside to look for your mother. Jun Changshao knew that she had made up her mind, so he did not stop her. Whoosh! That day, Gongsun Ruoli turned into a stream of light, flew out of the upper realm, and merged into the endless universe. During this time, I'll manage the sect, you can cultivate in peace. Rose of Flowers, who was standing behind him, said. After a trip to the falling star continent, she could feel that Jun Changshao's behavior had changed. His naughtiness was gradually replaced by maturity and steadiness. Then I'll have to trouble you. Rose of Flowers was in charge of all the internal affairs. Jun Changshao entered the spacetime secret realm and took out all the martial skills of the demonic tribe that his father had given him before he left. Then, he crushed a talisman of insight and started to cultivate. The path of martial arts was not about the number of secret manuals one could learn, but the pursuit of perfection. Since he could learn it in an instant, the more the better. Furthermore, the martial arts of the Moong clan were similar to other people's martial arts. After cultivating, one could also increase one's martial arts knowledge. I still can't understand the special Upanishads inside. After finishing his cultivation, Jun Changshao habitually took out the 7 remaining scrolls. For the past few years, every time his realm increased, he would take out the 7 mysterious sunglow break to study it. It was not to learn martial arts, but to pry into the profound meaning. However, as his realm increased, not only did he not understand the main points, but he also felt that it was more unfathomable. From Gu Tianqing's words, Jun Changshao had already learned that the 7 profound saint sovereign was known as a martial arts legend. His strength should be extremely terrifying, and for him to leave behind 7 incomplete scrolls that contained profound mysteries, there might be some sort of great opportunity there. The internal affairs of the sect were handled by Rose of Flowers and the upper echelons. Jun Changshao focused on cultivating and formulating a development plan. There was nothing much to plan. With the current way the sect of all times operated, as long as there was the support of the elixir store, the resources would only increase. Because of the new sect missions, the disciples would also participate in them while cultivating, and they could also continuously obtain sufficient 3 points. As for the most crucial realm increase, as long as he could form a core at 1 rotation speed, the entire sect's core transformation realm would definitely not be a problem. This was the strength of the lower level, and the upper echelons and core disciples could not be left behind. Therefore, Jun Changshao reloaded the VIP account for a year, which would be crazily refreshed every month to purchase martial arts facilities to increase one's realm. Ding! Host has spent 5,000 reputation points and obtained Elder's exclusive cultivation room X1. It has been transferred into the spatial ring. Ding! Sect reputation points, 12,000. After 2 months and a total of 60 refreshes, Jun Changshao finally obtained a brand new tool for cultivation, but it was only available to elders. Other than the newly joined Ryu Sinan and Gong Sun Ho, the senior elders like Ding Xingwang and Jiang Ye had not entered the truth-seeking realm even though their strength was steadily increasing. The appearance of the elders' exclusive cultivation room would undoubtedly help them improve. Of course. This kind of martial arts facility was not something that could be entered casually, and merit points would be deducted. The disciples obtained contribution points from completing sect missions and then used them to exchange for items in the store. The elders also had similar values. If not for the appearance of the exclusive cultivation room, Jun Changshao would not have realized it. In the exclusive cultivation room where majestic heaven and earth attributes gathered, Jiang Ye placed his palm on the screen. When he saw the 460 value that gradually appeared, he could not control his emotions and laughed loudly. Ding Xingwang broke down. Why is this guy higher than me? The value displayed on the screen was the merit points. If one wanted to cultivate inside, they would need to spend some points every day. Let me try. Old Gu walked over and placed his palm on the screen. The number displayed was 1,500. Damn! Jiang Ye was dumbfounded. Elder Jiang. Old Gu cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for letting me win." The Ning brothers also came to take the test. Their merit points were around 400 to 500. Ryu Sinan and Gong Sun Ho were the last to take the test. The result was 0, so they walked out of the cultivation room dejectedly. When Jun Changshao heard about it, he came to comfort them. The two of you have only been in the sect for a short time. It's normal that you don't have any merit points. If an elder wanted to obtain merit points, they had to contribute to the sect. This contribution depended on whether they could provide martial arts assistance to the disciples. For example, Old Gu was able to earn 1,500 merit points because he joined the Eternal Sect. Almost every day, he would go to the martial lecture hall to teach the disciples. Moreover, he would often replace the other elders. Although his presence was not high, his contribution was high. On the other hand, although Jiang Ye and Ding Xingwang occasionally came to give lectures, they spent more time on cultivation. Therefore, they did not have many merit points. The Ning brothers did not give lectures to the disciples, but they were in charge of disciple recruitment. They had contributed a lot. Understood. Ryu Sinan said, "I'll teach tomorrow." Gong Sun Ho rolled his eyes at him and said, "You're just a dabbler. You'll only mislead the disciples. I'll be the one teaching the disciples." The two of them had not been in the sect for long, but they had benefited from all kinds of martial arts facilities. Therefore, when the special cultivation room appeared, they began to contribute to the sect and actively taught the disciples. They even had conflicts in the Wu-Tang class many times. It would be great to be taught by two middle-level truth-seeking realm cultivators. As for Ding Xingwang, Old Gu, and the others, it was rare for them to have free time. They used the merit points they had and frequently went to the cultivation room. It was only a matter of time before they improved their realms. Since there are elders' cultivation rooms, there should be hall masters' cultivation rooms, right? Jun Changshao sat in the study and thought. Everything is available. The system said, as long as the host is brave enough to refresh. Jun Changshao was speechless. You're really promoting it every time you have a chance. Ding! Epic quest triggered. It's finally here. Jun Changshao almost cried. The first fleet of the astral spirit realm invaded the upper realm, and the 10th fleet invaded the falling star continent. What two good opportunities to issue missions. In the end, he didn't even get a side mission. Swoosh! He opened the panel and clicked on the introduction. Upper Realm Epic Quest, 6, Mission Details. The host must improve the overall strength of the sect within 2 years. Mission Requirements, Upper Truth Seeking Realm 0/1, Middle Truth Seeking Realm 0/5, Core Disciple Lower Truth Seeking Realm 0/10. Mission Reward. After reading the conditions, Jun Changshao said gloomily, "Don't Xingqian and Menjian count?" The system said, "It should be counted from the time the mission is issued. Those who break through in advance are not counted." 2 years. Jun Changshao muttered to himself, "This is a little difficult." Chapter 16-19. Judging from the new epic quest, Jun Changshao was forced to improve the strength of the sect. He couldn't be lazy anymore. 2 years. Not too long. It would definitely be a little difficult to meet the quest requirements. Elder Lu. Jun Changshao said, "If you are given enough martial arts resources, how long will it take for you to reach the upper level?" 2,000 years. Gou Xing almost fell off his chair. 2 years and 2,000 years, the difference between. God knows how many times. Jun Changshao asked Gong Sun Ho again, but the answer he got was still a few thousand years. So he broke down and pressed his face on the table, saying sadly, "It's too difficult for me. There were still 5 middle-level truth-seeking realm cultivators and 10 lower-level truth-seeking realm cultivators. Don't be discouraged." The system said, "As long as your mind doesn't slip, there are always more solutions than difficulties." That's right. Jun Changshao raised his head and said, "I can go outside and recruit ready-made strong masters." It was impossible to train them in 2 years. However, wouldn't it be easy to recruit high-level truth-seeking realm cultivators and directly appoint elders? The system was speechless. "You're cheating." After having an idea, Jun Changshao began to think about who to recruit. The first thing he thought of was naturally Jinren Tonggu and his family and friends. If he recruited them all, not only would he successfully meet the target, but he would also exceed it. The completion rate might exceed 1,000% by the settlement. Opportunity. Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. A good opportunity to skip a level. He could recruit elders and disciples. When the epic quest was completed, he might be able to enter the divine secret realm from the lower-level truth-seeking realm. Host, you're dreaming. Although the system had been slapped in the face countless times, this was the only time it was the most confident because it didn't think that the author would dare to let Gou Xing directly enter the third step from the second step. Because of the cheat. It was simply crazy. The appearance of the epic quest meant that Jun Changshao was stuck at the critical point. No matter how hard he tried, he wouldn't be able to improve, so he gave up cultivating and hurried to the extreme cave abode to rope in his master. I disagree. After learning the purpose of his visit, Jinren Tonggu said, I'm indifferent to fame and fortune. I won't join a sect. Master, there's no need to say too much. Experts like Jinren Tonggu yearn to be free and unrestrained. They yearn to play chess and take back their moves. Naturally, they would not join a sect because it was an invisible shackle. All right. Jun Changshao left dejectedly. Even if Master didn't agree, what about the 7 sages of Ethereal Hall? In order to tempt them, Gou Xing brought rich gifts and persuaded them with his glib tongue. In the end, he successfully recruited one of the upper-level truth-seeking realm cultivators. Even after the procedures were completed, the requirement for the epic-level quest did not increase. Ha ha ha. The system could not help but laugh out loud. Fuck. Jun Changshao cursed in his heart. He originally thought that he could use the bug to complete the mission, but in the end, he didn't get what he wanted. Senior. You're free now. Jun Changshao expelled one of the newly recruited 7 sages of Misty Mountain from the sect. He sat alone in the main hall, sad and lonely. Are you in trouble? Rows of flowers jumped up and sat beside him. You can say that. Jun Changshao said listlessly. Over the years, he had done many epic-level quests. Some were easier, some were more difficult, but this was the only one that could be called Hell Mode. In fact, he was confident that he could promote the upper echelons, but 2 years was too short. I followed Senior Gongsun to cultivate. The trouble I encountered shouldn't be less than yours, right? Rows of Flowers said, didn't I survive in the end? She and Jun Changshao were only husband and wife in name, so she always addressed Gongsun Ruoli as senior. Right. Go Sheng's eyes lit up. How did you cultivate? Before Rose of Flowers followed Gongsun Ruoli to cultivate, she was only at the core transformation realm. In just over a year, she broke through to the lower-level truth-seeking realm. This speed was even faster than cheating. Senior Gongsun brought me to a forbidden area. What forbidden area? Abyss of Life. Abyss of Life? Jun Changshao had never heard of this forbidden area. Rose of Flowers said, there are rich heaven and earth attributes and laws of heaven and earth inside. It can be absorbed at will, so I can improve by leaps and bounds in such a short time. Where is it? Jun Changshao was instantly tempted. The damned upper realm version of the system store had a limit on the number of refresh times. If there were no good items, he had to wait for another month, so he could only choose another reliable method. You want to go? The upper echelons and disciples will go. Stuck in the realm, Jun Changshao did not need to improve, nor could he improve, so he could only let the upper echelons and core disciples go. No. Rose of Flowers shook her head. You'll die. I'll die. Jun Changshao was confused. Rose of Flowers said, the Abyss of Life is actually an ancient formation that has existed for a long time. It needs someone to be the formation eye to activate it. It's not just the formation eye, right? It also consumes lifespan. If it can make them stronger, it doesn't matter if it consumes lifespan, Jun Changshao said. Rose of Flowers said, in order to make me stronger, Senior Gongsun personally became the formation eye. In just over a year, it consumed 1,000 years of lifespan. So much? Jun Changshao's eyes widened. For a powerhouse like his father who was half a step into the divine secret realm, 1,000 years of lifespan was nothing, but for an ordinary martial artist, it was a bit too much. A martial artist's lifespan would naturally increase with the increase of the realm. Losing 1,000 years was equivalent to losing 1,000 years of cultivation opportunity. If they could not improve in the future, it was equivalent to committing suicide in advance. It's just one person. Rose of Flowers said, Senior Gongsun said that if more martial artists enter, the lifespan consumed will also increase. Jun Changshao was silent. According to the epic missions quota, he needed 16 people to reach the standard. If he let them all go in and be the formation eye himself, how much lifespan would that consume? To put it bluntly, a forbidden land like the Abyss of Life was actually to use one's lifespan to increase the experience of others. So many powerhouses had heard of it, but almost no one had gone there. Because, no one would selflessly contribute unless it was a special situation. Go! Jun Changshao said, let's give it a try. If they cultivated step by step within 2 years, they might not be able to meet the quota. At that time, their realm would be stuck, so it was better to consume their lifespan to improve. At least there was absolute hope. This forbidden land can only promote martial artists to the lower level of the truth-seeking realm. As for whether they can succeed or not, it depends on their luck. It was precisely because it was full of uncertainty that no one was willing to go to the Abyss of Life to waste their lifespan. That works too. The mission was to promote 10 core disciples to the lower level. Jun Changshao planned to do his best to get them up first, and then consider the problem of promoting the higher level. The road. One step at a time. The next day. On the training field. Lu Qianxian, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, Su Xiaoma, Li Fei, and the other core disciples flew onto the ancient warship. Whoosh! The warship cut through the void and headed for the Abyss of Life. Rose of Flowers also followed. After all, she had been there once and had experience in this area. However, when they arrived at the Abyss of Life hidden in the mountain range, Jun Changshao realized that her goal was not to follow the path, but to be the formation eye. So he shouted, hurry up and come out. Rose of Flowers said, with so many disciples going in, they will need a lot of lifespan. Husband will have to manage the sect of all times in the future, so let me contribute. Chapter 1620. Who created the abyss of life was a mystery in the upper realm. The function of the internal formation was very magical. By consuming the lifespan of the formation eye, there was a chance that martial artists could be promoted to the lower level of the truth-seeking realm. Jun Changshao rushed over when he heard about it. However, Rose of Flowers took the initiative to walk in and act as the formation eye. What do you mean by a good wife? This is it. The system was touched and even wanted to take the opportunity to scold Go Sheng. Can your lifespan be as long as mine? Jun Changshao said with a straight face, hurry up and come out. Go Sheng dared to come here and consume his lifespan because he was very young and had an easier time breaking through the realm than ordinary people, so he was willing to squander it. If it were Ryu Sinan and Gong Sun Ho, they would definitely be terrified. After all, they had lived for too long and had no hope of entering the third step in this lifetime. If they squandered it, they might die immediately. I want to help my husband share the burden. Rose of Flowers did not know that Jun Changshao was trapped in the epic mission, but she could see that he wanted the sect to become stronger, so he was willing to sacrifice his life to help him. There was no need to exaggerate. In her opinion, this was what a wife should do. Moreover, Gongsun Ruoli also consumed 1,000 years of her lifespan to promote her realm. There's no need. Jun Changshao said, I can handle it myself. The formation has been activated, let them go in quickly. Rose of Flowers said. Seeing that she was so determined, Jun Changshao finally said after tens of thousands of words of inner conflict, go in. Yes. Li Qingyang and the others stepped into the flowing light formation. Hum. Hum. As the 10 core disciples all entered the abyss of life, strands of strange attributes appeared on Rose of Flowers, who was in the formation eye, and then integrated into the entire formation system. This was lifespan. Losing a strand was equivalent to losing a day. Inside, Lu Qianqian, Li Qingyang, and the others were shocked. After the formation was strengthened by the lifespan, it turned from an illusory and ethereal state into a starry sky. Gradually, the boundless nature and laws of heaven and earth appeared, like scattered stars and wandering spirits. This is amazing. Su Xiaoma raised his hand. As soon as he touched the attributes and laws, they uncontrollably drilled into his mind. His martial arts instantly experienced a subtle rise. Although the martial arts facilities that Jun Changshao had provided in the past were very powerful, they could be found everywhere in the abyss of life. The martial arts knowledge that could be easily obtained was obviously more powerful. The items in the system store were not made out of thin air. They came from different worlds and different universes. Therefore, this was sufficient to prove that there was nothing too strange in the boundless universe. Cultivate. Lu Qianqian sat down cross-legged. Li Qingyang and the others recovered from their shock, and one after another, they concealed their spirit and qi. The abyss of life contained extremely complete martial arts and knowledge and profound meanings. They only needed to absorb and accommodate it. As for whether they could break through the truth-seeking realm, it would depend on themselves and their luck. Outside, Jun Changshao sat on the stone, his eyes never leaving Rose of Flowers who was in the eye of the array. He looked calm on the surface, but in fact, he was panicking inside. Buzz! Buzz! Wisps of lifespan flew out of Rose of Flowers' body and then merged into the array, replenishing the attributes and laws of heaven and earth for the 10 disciples. They could really burn themselves to warm others. 10 days. 50 days, the 10 core disciples in the abyss of life seemed to have turned into meditating old monks, crazily absorbing the martial arts power inside, and their realms were also rising. As a price, Rose of Flowers had to pay 10 times her lifespan. Therefore, after being in the eye of the array for half a year, her black hair gradually turned pale, and her tender skin gradually aged. Lifespan was the foundation of a martial artist. Because they did not live long enough, how could they comprehend more profound martial arts realms? And if there was a serious consumption, they would naturally experience the side effect of aging. Damn it! Seeing this, Jun Changshao hurriedly rushed in. Although he was quite a straightforward man, he understood that appearance was very important to women. Let me do it. Jun Changshao pulled rows of flowers out. Don't blame him for being a little rude. After all, this method was obviously the most direct and effective. Buzz! Buzz! As soon as Jun Changshao stood in the eye of the array, he suddenly felt that the blood in his body seemed to be burning, and then something special was drawn out. This is lifespan, the system said. Can you calculate how much lifespan I have now? About 20 to 30,000 years. Okay. Jun Changshao said, then I'll sacrifice until there are only 100 years left. This lifespan just corresponded to the time specified in the main mission. Anyway, if he could not complete it, he would die, so he might as well use it all to help his disciple. Whoosh! Whoosh! Wisps of lifespan were absorbed. The process was not painful, but Jun Changshao looked at the deteriorating rows of flowers in the outside world, and his heart seemed to be stabbed by a knife. To let a woman who looked to be in her prime suddenly age to 50 or 60 years old, he was annoyed that he should have done it himself. It's okay. The system said, you will also decline, and then we will be an old couple. Strangely enough, after Jun Changshao replaced rows of flowers, the heaven and earth attributes and laws in the abyss of life became stronger than before, which made Li Qingyang even more focused on cultivation. Because he was too immersed, he forgot about time. Who? One day, Lu Qianxian's body surged with a majestic aura, and she successfully stepped into the lower level of the truth-seeking realm from the peak of the core transformation realm. Li Qingyang, Su Xiama, and the others followed closely behind and stepped into the truth-seeking realm. She broke through. Unbelievable. Even the martial arts facilities in the sect are not so magical. Let's go out. After breaking through to the truth-seeking realm, they could not accommodate the heaven and earth attributes and laws, so they could only leave the abyss of life. However, when they came out and saw the aging rows of flowers, they were all stunned. Am. If not for their clothes, it would be difficult to recognize Li Qingyang and Su Xiama. Rows of flowers said, let's care about the patriarch. Li Qingyang and the others clearly remembered that Am was the array core. Now that she was standing at the door with an aged face, it meant that the patriarch had gone to replace her. Therefore, they hurriedly looked at the array core area, but they saw nothing. I'm here. Suddenly, a voice sounded. Everyone hurriedly lowered their heads and saw a child about 3 to 5 years old standing in front of them. Because his clothes were too loose, he looked like he was wrapped in a layer of bedsheets. His eyes were big and watery. Not only did he look cute, but he also looked like Jun Changshao. Fuck! Su Xiama blurted out in shock, is this the son of the patriarch and Am? We've been cultivating inside for 3 to 5 years. Bang, plop! The side of his face flew out and landed beautifully. The child maintained his punching posture and said angrily, I'm your patriarch. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. The patriarch's wife looked old and the patriarch had regained his youth. Was this a side effect of consuming his lifespan? Let's go. Back to the sect. On the same day. The sect of all times was in an uproar. The patriarch, who had been away for a year, had returned as a child. And the patriarch's wife, who was a great beauty that could cause the downfall of a country, had aged. System. After changing into a fitting set of clothes, the young Jun Changshao jumped onto the chair and asked, is there a way to restore that woman's appearance? Your wife's problem isn't that big. A beauty pill can solve the problem. The system said, however, if the host's body shrinks into a child's appearance, I'm afraid. Puhaha. Chapter 1621. The 10 core disciples all broke through to the lower-level truth-seeking realm. As the price, Jun Changshao became younger and rows of flowers became older. Strange. It also consumed a lot of lifespan. Why was the side effect of Gosheng turning into a child? Was it because his skin was too thick and could not age, so he could only be forced to output in reverse? Jun Changshao did not care about his own changes, because his strength and realm were still there, but when he thought of Rose of Flowers' aging face, he would fall into deep self-blame. Especially, he had lost his lifespan. The system said, the lifespan of the soul race is longer than that of the human race. There should be no problem for the host to pull her out after her face has aged. Pfft, haha, when it thought of the host turning from a young man to a kid, it could not help but want to laugh. Jun Changshao was still a little worried, so he went to the courtyard where Rose of Flowers lived. Women valued appearances very much. She should be very sad now. Their courtyards were very close to each other, but Gosheng rarely took the initiative to come here. After entering, all he saw were roses. Bursts of fragrance filled the air, making him feel refreshed. Rose of Flowers was trimming the branches and leaves in the garden, looking as if nothing had happened. Jun Changshao was speechless. Why was this woman not sad at all when she looked old? Why was she still in the mood to tidy up the roses in the courtyard? As the Empress of the Soul Race, Rose of Flowers had experienced a lot and had long lost the mentality of a young girl, so it was not important whether she was young or not. Besides, didn't she become a disciple of the entire sect even if her appearance declined? What's the matter? Nothing. Why are you here if you have nothing to do? Can't you come if you have nothing to do? Oh. After the two of them had a special conversation, the atmosphere became awkward. From the beginning to the end, Rose of Flowers did not turn around. She kept trimming the rose branches and leaves slowly and carefully. Although she said that she did not care about her appearance, it seemed that she did not want her husband to see her. Looking at her back with white hair, Jun Changshao felt even more guilty, so he said seriously, I will find a way to make you young again. Thank you. Rose of Flowers said. Jun Changshao stood at the back for a while, then turned and left. Husband. Rose of Flowers stopped him and said, everything I did was what I should do. You don't have to blame yourself too much. Restoring your appearance is what I should do. I'll wait for you. Rose of Flowers knew Jun Changshao well. Since he said he would restore her appearance, he would definitely do it. I'll go think of something. It was rare for Gosheng to say goodbye before leaving. Wait. Rose of Flowers stopped him again and said, say, if we have a child, will he look like you now? Plop. Jun Changshao tripped over the threshold and fell to the ground. In the main hall. Jun Changshao, who was barely 1 meter tall, was sitting on the patriarch's throne. His little hand was holding his little chin, and his little eyebrows were furrowed. He looked very cute. Ryu Sinan, Gong Sun Ho, and other high-level officials were sitting in the lower seats, looking very serious. It was not that there was something wrong. They were trying hard to hold back their laughter. A big guy had turned into a little kid. Any trained professional who saw Gosheng's appearance would instantly break down their years of cultivation. Even when Jun Changshao flew in the ancient warship yesterday, many high-level officials had the same thought as Su Xiaoma. Was this child the result of the love between the patriarch and his wife? That was not right. He had only been out for a year. Even if he had been pregnant for 10 months, he would have just been born. How could he be 3 or 5 years old? Was it that the patriarch was extraordinary, and so was his son? Or could it be that this child was not actually born by Rose of Flowers, but the patriarch's illegitimate child? When Jun Changshao returned to the sect of all times as a child, the high-level officials and disciples who did not know the truth gave full play to their powerful imagination. Patriarch. Ryu Sinan suppressed his urge to laugh and said seriously, pills that can restore one's appearance are very common in the upper realm. You can order the procurement hall to search for them in the major cities. That's right. Gong Sun Ho said, as far as I know, many cities sell beauty pills such as the moon-setting flower shaming pill and the beautifying pill. The price is not particularly expensive. Hall Masterly, purchase these pills as soon as possible. Yes. That day, the members of the procurement hall began to get busy. Because of the teleportation formation and professional procurement staff, in just half a day, beauty pills from different cities and pharmacies were all sent to the sect. In the room, Rose of Flowers was speechless. Because the table was filled with various pill bottles, as well as many natural treasures for beauty. Try it. June Changshao said, maybe it'll work. Rose of Flowers took out a beauty pill, but there was no effect after taking it, so she tried a second one, a third one. In the end, it did not restore her lost appearance. Do you believe me now? The system said. In the beginning, it told June Changshao that if he wanted to completely restore Rose of Flowers, he had to rely on the pills in the shop. However, he did not believe it and insisted on spending manpower and resources to purchase pills from the upper realm. It was not that Go Sheng was stingy, but that he had already used up 30 times and did not get any beauty pills. He could only wait for the cooldown to cool down and pin his hopes on the upper realm's alchemy. Sigh. June Changshao sat listlessly in the main hall. When he thought of that woman's back facing him, his heart felt uncomfortable and guilty. Patriarch. At this time, Ryu Sinan walked over and said, I have another way. Maybe it can restore Madame's appearance. What way? June Changshao hurriedly asked. If there are any difficult cases, look for Bailey Chencho. Who? My colleague with Gong Sun Ho. Demon Exterminator. That's right. Where is he? The Realm Hall, the City of Sin. The City of Sin. June Changshao had heard of all the famous cities in the upper realm, but the City of Sin was the only one he had never heard of. Ryu Sinan said, Bailey Chencho's cultivation is about the same as mine. He has been studying unorthodox methods for many years, and his medical skills can be considered one of the best in the upper realm. However, his personality is extremely strange, and he is both good and evil. Back then, he caught a fugitive and destroyed a city with his own hands, causing millions of lives to perish. He was imprisoned in the City of Sin by the Realm Hall for punishment. He can restore the appearance of old people. June Changshao did not care about the story behind this demon exterminator. He just wanted to know if it could be done. Ryu Sinan said, Bailey Chencho's medical skills are unorthodox, and often have unexpected effects. However, the Patriarch's wife has lost her life and her appearance has aged. I cannot guarantee that she can recover. After a short silence, June Changshao jumped down from his seat and said, Let's go to the City of Sin. Whether it worked or not. At least it was a chance. Ryu Sinan said, The City of Sin is not a city, but a small independent space. If the Patriarch wants to enter, he must get permission from the Realm Hall, and they will allow Bailey Chencho to be released from prison early. Then let's go to the Realm Hall and ask for permission to let him go. On the same day, the ancient warship turned into a ray of light and flew towards the central area of the upper realm. On the ship were Ryu Sinan, Gong Sun Ho, Gueba Jiang, and the core disciples who had entered the truth-seeking realm. There were not many people, but the quality was good. If they fought, they would not be weak at all. It had been almost 10 years. June Changshao had finally gone to the Realm Hall. The two of them actually had a conflict in the lower realm. Although it was temporarily resolved due to the invasion of the Star Spirit Realm, it did not mean that the hatred had disappeared. Chapter 1622. World Mountain. A famous mountain in the central region. Later, the 10 great celestial sects built the World Hall here for the sake of world peace. As an official organization, the headquarters of the World Hall was located at the peak of World Mountain. Naturally, it was magnificent and majestic. Father. A child stood in the distance and looked at the mountain peak surrounded by clouds. Is this the World Hall? That's right. The father patted the child's head and smiled. Don't do bad things when you grow up. Otherwise, the World Hall will send people to catch you. The child was a little scared. In the eyes of ordinary warriors in the upper world, the World Hall was an unreachable existence. It symbolized power and dignity, so anyone who passed by World Mountain would be afraid. Whoosh! Suddenly, a strong wind blew. The father and son who had just passed by World Mountain looked back and saw a huge warship hanging in the sky. An ancient warship? The patriarch of the sect of all times. Why is he here? The passers-by stopped and looked shocked. Because it was an official organization, it was common for forces to visit. However, this scene of a warship hanging in front of the World Hall's mountain peak had never happened before. Something was wrong. Something was wrong. The patriarch of the sect of all times, Jun Changshao. At this moment, a young voice came from the warship. I'm here to visit the World Hall. The warriors who were looking at the ancient warship quickly locked their eyes on the child standing at the bow of the ship. Their expressions froze. This guy is Jun Changshao. Although they had never seen the patriarch of the sect of all times, they had heard that he should be a young man in his 20s. Why did he look like a kid wearing diapers today? No. He should be a disciple or servant of the sect, right? Whoosh! Whoosh! Several streams of light flew out from World Mountain. They were obviously strong warriors of the World Hall. They stopped 100 feet away from the ancient warship. There was anger and confusion in their eyes. They were angry. Since the establishment of the World Hall, there was a no-fly zone. They were confused. Since the patriarch of the sect of all times came, why didn't they see him in person? Or did they send a kid to replace them? Fuck. Who are you looking down on? Humph, an elder said coldly, I'm sorry, our Jie Hall is not receiving any guests today. Please come another day. Although the Jie Hall was a little afraid of Jun Changshao, as an official organization, they still cared about their reputation. Sending a child to visit was simply a blatant humiliation. No. Jun Changshao said, today. Because of the grudge between him and Jie Hall, Gosheng spoke in a neutral tone, giving people the feeling that he was here to fight. In the past, when he had just ascended, his strength was too weak to compete with such an organization, so he could only choose to eat chicken. Now, things were different. Not only did the sect have strong cultivators in the truth-seeking realm, but they also had the Stone Statue clan and the Dragon clan behind them. Not to mention a mere Jie Hall, even if it was the 10 great immortal sects, Jun Changshao would still dare to fight them. Confidence. They were feet. Deacon Wang. Ryu Sinan walked out of the cockpit and said, My patriarch is here to discuss something important. Please don't deliberately make things difficult for us. It would have been better if he didn't come out. As soon as he came out, Deacon Wang was furious. He said angrily, Ryu Sinan, as a demon exterminator of the Jie Hall, don't you know the rule that flying is prohibited in the Jie Mountain? Now you're swaggering here in a warship. Who is making things difficult for whom? Doraemon said, I'm on the Jie Hall's side. They're right. Don't care who's making things difficult for whom. Jun Changshao said lightly, I'll give you 3 seconds to get the Jie Hall master to come out. Otherwise. He paused and said with a cold look, I'll fight my way in. He changed his attitude and became the king of guns. When the first fleet of the astral spiritual realm attacked, he didn't seem to be so capable. The Jie Hall cultivators were even angrier. If it was the patriarch of the sect of all times himself, they might have backed down. But this little brat was so arrogant and domineering. He was a bully. 1, 2, 3. Jun Changshao shouted 3 seconds as fast as he could. All the warriors almost fell. With this speed, it was obvious that he didn't want to give the other party a chance to think. He was going to fight his way in. Since the establishment of the Jie Hall, it represented authority and no one had dared to fight their way in. If the sect of all times did it, it would definitely be a little exciting. All the warriors were the typical bystanders. They sat on small stools and ate melon seeds and watermelons. They almost added happily, this melon is so sweet. Time's up. Jun Changshao said lightly, then don't let me break into the Jie Hall. Swish. Swish. In an instant, more than 10 core disciples led by Li Qingyang flew out. Their cultivation of the lower level of the truth-seeking realm completely erupted, instantly filling the entire Jie mountain. Buzz! 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 The array around them twisted and gradually appeared. The Jie Hall was not a sect, but it had a mountain-protecting array. Now, in front of the disciples of the sect of all times, it seemed to be trembling a little. Boom! Su Xiaoma was the first to fly over. He raised his foot and punched the barrier, directly shattering the first layer. Boom! 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 Li Fei, Long Xiang, and the others were not willing to fall behind. They all gathered the martial arts of their sects and formed a brilliant light to forcefully break the array. Damn! A passerby exclaimed, they're really going to fight their way in. The sect of all times is too fierce. If they really break into the Jie Hall today, it will definitely cause a huge sensation in the upper realm. How can the 10 immortal sects tolerate this? Many people began to consider the worst outcome if this incident happened. Boom! In the end, the mountain-protecting array completely collapsed. Swish! Swish! Inside the Jie Hall, a large number of experts flew out angrily. The true strength of this official organization was displayed. There were no less than 10 lower-level truth-seeking realm cultivators and core transformation realm cultivators everywhere. If not for Jun Changshao forcefully breaking the array, the world would not have seen such a scale of combat power. How dare you offend the Jie Hall? Deacon Wang shouted angrily, unforgivable. Whoosh! Whoosh! The experts of the Jie Hall fully unleashed their cultivation, and their eyes flickered with strong fighting spirit. A great battle. It was about to begin. However, when Gui Ba flew out of the warship, the cultivation of the lower-level truth-seeking realm cultivators and majestic demonic chi erupted, immediately suppressing all the auras that emerged from the Jie mountain. TSK, Jun Changshao sneered. His small appearance was very cute. If it was in the past, he might be a little scared when he saw so many truth-seeking realm cultivators in the Jie Hall. But now, he did not care at all. Come on. Let's have fun. In the sky above the Jie mountain. The sect of all times and the Jie Hall were hundreds of feet apart, and the atmosphere was extremely solemn. Swish! At this moment, a stream of light flew over, revealing a dignified middle-aged man in brocade clothes. He said coldly, "Did Jun Changshao order you to invade?" Patriarch. Ryu Sinan said, "He's the hall master of the Jie Hall." Someone from the Lingtian immortal sect? Jun Changshao vaguely remembered that this person was among the many experts sent by the Lingtian immortal sect when the star spirit world invaded. Ryu Sinan nodded and said, "According to the internal rules of the Jie Hall, the position of Hall Master is rotated by the 10 major immortal sects. This time, it's the Lingtian immortal sect's turn." Oh. Jun Changshao nodded and said, "That's right, it was this king's idea." The Hall Master of the Jie Hall took a closer look and found that this guy looked a bit like the patriarch of the sect of all times, so he blurted out, "Are you Jun Changshao's son?" Gou Sheng's little face was angry. His mouth did not keep up with his thoughts as he roared, "I'm his father." The upper echelons and disciples of the sect of all times were confused. Chapter 1623. I'm your father. When Jun Changshao said this, the higher-ups and disciples of the sect of all times were stunned. Was he crazy? No, there was nothing wrong with him at all. The Boundary Hall leader guessed that he was his son based on his appearance and body size. If Jun Changshao really had a son, wouldn't he be his father? Could there be someone else? Then it would be a grassland. No. Gou Sheng realized that he had said something wrong and quickly corrected himself. Jun Changshao is my son. Pfft. Su Xiaoma couldn't help but laugh out loud. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others' mouths twitched. They thought, how many dishes did the patriarch eat today? Fuck. Jun Changshao said angrily, I am Jun Changshao. His head finally came around. The system sighed. It seems that the shrinking of the body didn't affect the host's cultivation and realm. Instead, it affected the host's IQ. You are Jun Changshao. The Boundary Hall leader looked doubtful. Jun Changshao knew that it was hard to convince people that he had shrunk, so he looked at Ryu Sinan and Gong Sun Ho and said, Tell them, am I? That's right. The two of them said in unison, he is Jun Changshao. If it was a disciple of the Sect of all times who said it, the Boundary Hall leader might not believe it. However, since it was a demon exterminator, it should be believable. Fuck. This guy is crazy. It was common for strong cultivators to pretend to be young in all the major realms. However, to disguise oneself as a 3 to 5-year-old child, he must have some special hobby. All the other cultivators were also thinking the same thing. As they looked at Jun Changshao, goosebumps rose all over their bodies. Disgusting. Shameless. Jun Changshao didn't expect to become a weirdo in front of everyone. Instead, he suppressed his bad temper and said calmly, Since you are here, I will be frank. The hall master of the Boundary Hall was also suppressing his anger. Since the establishment of the World Hall, no one had ever dared to attack it, let alone break the Great Protective Mountain Formation. The Sect of all times was getting more and more impudent and daring. Did they think that they could do whatever they wanted just because they had Jinren Tonggu's backing? I'm sorry. Jinren Tonggu was only one of Gosheng's supporters. Actually, the real reason why he dared to fall out with the Jie Hall in front of the world was because of his sect's own strength and the Stone Statue clan and the Dragon clan. The hidden strength of the Jie Hall was not weak, but it was at most a mid-level truth-seeking realm cultivator. The most tragic thing was that 2 of the 3 demon exterminators had sided with him. If they did not seek help from each other, how could the Sect of all times be weaker than the Jie Hall? Actually, the Jie Hall was not as strong as they had imagined. Or rather, they were very strong at the beginning, but only Jun Changshao was weak. Now that they had developed, the situation was different. Furthermore, the truly terrifying thing about the Jie Hall was that it had the backing of the 10 great immortal sects. As for themselves, because they represented authority, even if they symbolically put a dog at home, no martial artist would dare to attack them. The best representative was the Buried Moon Pavilion. They had fought with the Jie Hall for so long, but they were just playing tricks in the dark. If they really attacked, they would not dare to do so even if they were given 10 guts. They did not dare, but Jun Changshao dared. As long as one's wings were strong, there was nothing one did not dare to do. I'm not here to cause trouble today. I just hope that the Jie Hall can cooperate and hand over a person, Jun Changshao said. The warship was in front of them, and they had broken the Great Protective Mountain Formation by force. How could they say that they were not here to cause trouble? Indeed, only a shameless guy would force himself to become a child. Who? The hall master of the Jie Hall had been controlling his emotions. This was also because Jun Changshao had stopped attacking, and the atmosphere had eased slightly. Bailey Li is asking for a beating. Patriarch, it's Bailey Qianqiu. It's all the same. Ryu Sinan was speechless. The sound was the same, but the literal meaning was very different. The hall master of the Jie Hall said coldly, this person violated the Jie Hall's laws and is being punished in the city of Sin. If you want to find him, please wait until he is released. I'm taking him away now. Jun Changshao knew that that guy had been sentenced to a few thousand years, and it would be a long time before he could be released. As long as the rose of flowers did not recover her appearance, he would suffer for another day, so he had to deal with him as soon as possible. Of course. He added, I'm bailing him out in the name of the patriarch of the Sect of all times, and I'll send him back to the city of Sin to serve his sentence after I'm done here. These words were still reasonable. However, the Jie Hall said with a straight face, what do you think the Jie Hall is? You think you can take him away and send him back just because you want to? You don't agree? Jun Changshao's eyes gradually turned cold. It's not that he doesn't agree. Suddenly, a deep voice sounded, "It's the Ling Tian celestial sect that doesn't agree." In the sky above the Jie mountain, more than 10 elders in long robes appeared out of nowhere. From their uniform, one could tell that they were from the Ling Tian celestial sect. The celestial sect is here. Things are going to get out of hand. This melon is so sweet. The passers-by started to sit down and watch the show. The Jia Hall was the enforcer of the upper realm, and the celestial sects behind them were no different from gods. Now that Jun Changshao was here to cause trouble, they would not let him go so easily. Ha! Jun Changshao laughed. He was not surprised that the 10 celestial sects had appeared. Jun Patriarch. The Ling Tian celestial sect elder said coldly, "Since you've protected the upper realm, we won't pursue your crimes. Leave the Jie mountain quickly." "Leave?" "Sure." Jun Changshao said calmly, "Hand over Bai Li Yu. The executioner must be released after serving his sentence, or else he will be imprisoned in the city of sin," the Ling Tian celestial sect elder said. "Cut the crap." Jun Changshao lost his patience and said, "I must take Bai Li Yu away today. If you don't hand him over, don't blame me for destroying the Jie Hall." "Awesome. Too awesome." The martial artists almost gave him a thumbs up when they heard that. The celestial sects behind them were here, and the sect of all time's patriarch was even more arrogant. "How dare you!" The Ling Tian celestial sect elder's eyes flashed with anger. Whoosh! Whoosh! At that moment, streams of light flew over from afar and hovered near the ancient warship. Who were they? The 3 ducal ministers and 9 ministers of the stone statue tribe. When Jun Changshao went to the Jie Hall, he was worried that the 10 celestial sects would be alerted, so he sent a letter to the stone statue tribe in advance, asking them to come as soon as possible. "What did you just say?" Jun Changshao turned his face and put his hand in front of his ear, saying, "I didn't hear you clearly." With the support of the 3 chancellors and 9 ministers, Go Sheng was even more unyielding. Of course, they were not his legs, but his subordinates. Because he was the leader of the stone statue tribe, he had the right to mobilize them. The Ling Tian celestial sect elder, who was originally angry, fell silent. The 3 chancellors and 9 ministers of the stone statue tribe were all at the peak of the truth-seeking realm. They were definitely not weak compared to a celestial sect. "Patriarch." At that moment, a voice came from the sky, "Your disciple is here." Whoosh! Whoosh! As soon as the voice fell, huge dragons of different colors roared from the clouds and circled above the Jie mountain in a majestic manner. Vast dragon aura filled the air, causing the onlookers' expressions to change. The human form of Little Long Long stood on the dragon. Although it had not been long since he ascended the throne, the aura of a king was especially strong. The Ling Tian celestial sect elder's mouth twitched. There were stone statue tribe powerhouses in front and dragon tribe powerhouses above. He had never thought of such a situation when he came. "I'll ask you again." Jun Changshao jumped onto the chair, put his hands together, and rested his chin on them. "Are you going to hand them over or not?" Chapter 1624. In the extreme cave abode. Black and white chess pieces were scattered all over the ground. "Old man." Masato Kitano first set up the chessboard, then took out a new chess piece, and said, "Ever since the invasion of the astral spirit realm, I've noticed that you've been quite happy every day. This familiar movement, this familiar preparation." That was right. Halfway through the game, the 2 of them saw that the situation was not right and flipped the chessboard again. "Huh." Jinren Tonggu laughed. Indeed, ever since the catastrophe, his state of mind had been very stable, and there would not be any bad omens for no reason. The reason was that Jun Changshao had a stronger backer and stronger strength. In the future, when he caused trouble in the upper realm, he, as his master, would not have to take the blame. Needless to say, if Go Sheng did not have the support of the 2 clans, Jinren Tonggu would have already reacted by now and would not be playing chess happily. The camera turned to the realm mountain. The 3 dukes and 9 ministers of the stone statue clan fully activated their cultivation, and the powerhouse of the dragon clan transformed into his true form, suspended in the sky, exerting a huge pressure. This scene. Was the immortal sect moved? Jun Changshao sat at the bow of the ship, waiting for the other party's reply. If they insisted on not letting Bailey Qianqiu go, he would definitely give the order and destroy the realm hall. For his disciple, Go Sheng could do many unreasonable things, not to mention the rows of flowers who had sacrificed a lot of her lifespan. Damn it! The elder of the Lingtian immortal sect was furious. Answer quickly. Jun Changshao said lightly, my patience is limited. Therefore, he could not let this guy be arrogant, otherwise, he would be asking for a beating. All right. After weighing the pros and cons, the elder of the Lingtian immortal sect said with difficulty, allow bail. Was he scared? Was he scared? The main reason was that they had just experienced the invasion of the astral spirit realm, and the 10 major immortal sects had not recovered yet. If they fought with Jun Changshao today, it would mean that they were going to war with the 2 clans. Forget it, forget it. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. The more he took a step back, the more he thought about it. For the sake of the stability of the world, hand over Bailey Qianqiu. After all, the Ling Tian celestial sect still cared about their reputation. Therefore, they did not admit defeat so openly. Instead, they compromised and agreed to bail them out. AI. Jun Changshao shook his head. Why bother? City of Sin. It was a small independent world that was similar to a city. The area here was not very large, and there were all kinds of defensive array formations set up all around. It could be described as an impregnable fortress. Hua! Hua! The sound of objects colliding could be heard from the entrance that connected to the outside world. A disheveled man with unkempt hair and an indistinct appearance walked out with a chain on his ankles. You may leave. The warden said calmly. Ha! The prisoner raised his head, revealing a deep look in his eyes. His tone was full of ridicule as he said, there are still 1,000 years before my sentence ends. Why are you letting me out in advance? Someone bailed you out. Who? Stop talking nonsense and get out. The prisoner did not say anything else. He then walked toward the teleportation array. Before he left, he brushed his hair aside and smiled. Before I leave, I'll give you a piece of advice. Don't eat meat for 3 days, or else, whoosh, before he finished speaking, he disappeared into thin air. The warden's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly checked his body. After making sure there was nothing wrong, he said, is this guy trying to scare me? Sir. The underling said in a low voice, this person's medical skills are strange. You must believe him. Outside the world mountain. Light flashed in the array. A man with unkempt hair appeared out of thin air. He raised his head and took a deep breath of fresh air. He sighed. What a nostalgic smell. Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, a hand grabbed his collar and he stumbled over. Who was it? Jun Changshao. He had been squatting at the teleportation array for a while. Now that he saw the person in question, he had to quickly drag him back to the sect of all times to treat rows of flowers. Wait! I dropped my shoe. Bailey Qianqiu. One of the 3 demon exterminators. This person did not have a special spiritual seed, but he had special medical skills. Back then, he accidentally destroyed a city while hunting down a traitor. He was sentenced to a few thousand years and imprisoned in the city of Sin. Today, not only was he released from prison, but he was also brought to the sect of all times. If he had to describe his current state of mind, it would be that he was dumbfounded the entire time. What's going on? After being placed in a separate courtyard, Bailey Qianqiu looked at Ryu Sinan and Gong Sunho. As former colleagues, they must know each other. Isn't that all you can do? My patriarch invited you here to treat your illness. Your patriarch? Bailey Qianqiu was stunned. The two of you who like to be unrestrained have joined a sect? That's right. Ryu Sinan and Gong Sun Ho said. In the past, they would not have bothered to join any forces. Now. Oh my god, it was so tempting. TSK, TSK. Bailey Qianqiu said, what kind of sect can make the two of you interested? The sect of all times. Jun Changshao walked in from outside and jumped onto a chair. He crossed his legs and said as if he was chatting, as long as you can restore her face, I will not mistreat you. You are my patriarch. Pht, ha ha ha. Bailey Qianqiu suddenly laughed. He laughed so hard that tears came out of his eyes. He said, the leader of the sect is actually a little kid. No. This is too funny, ha ha ha, Jun Changshao frowned. He really wanted to send him to the Tianyuan prison pagoda to add more scenes for the prison trio. Sorry. Bailey Qianqiu went from laughing to being serious. He said, ever since I was put on trial, I swore not to treat anyone else. You should find someone else. Before he could finish, he was lifted up. What? Send you back to the city of sin? No, no, no. I just regained my freedom. I bailed you out of the prison to let you treat your illness. Since you have already washed your hands of the gold basin, you should go back to prison obediently. I'll treat you. I'll treat you. Bailey Qianqiu originally wanted to put on airs, but Jun Changshao did not buy it. For the sake of his freedom, he could only cooperate. Swoosh! In the treatment room of the medical hall, a spotless white coat was draped over his body. His messy hair was combed back, making him look especially dark and shiny. Professional. Sun Bukong was surprised. As the disciple with the best medical skills in the sect, he could tell at a glance that Bailey Qianqiu, who looked like he was reborn, was definitely a Qi Huang expert. Rose of Flowers walked in. Although her appearance had deteriorated, she had a good foundation after all. She was not the kind of person who was old and had one foot in the grave. Jun Patriarch. Bailey Qianqiu observed for a while and said, I'm afraid the deterioration of your wife's appearance is not caused by illness. That's right. Jun Changshao told him the details of the matter. Bailey Qianqiu held his chin and said, no wonder she's aging. It turns out that she has sacrificed a lot of her lifespan in the abyss of life. Is there a way to save her? Jun Changshao asked. I'm sorry. Bailey Qianqiu said, your wife's illness is caused by the consumption of her lifespan. Conventional medical skills or pills can't cure her at all. Unless she breaks through a major realm and obtains more lifespan to make up for it. Jun Changshao rolled his eyes. It was not that he did not know this method, but it was extremely difficult to enter the divine secret realm from the truth-seeking realm. Of course. Bailey Qianqiu said, I have a folk prescription here that can cure your wife. What folk prescription? This folk prescription was accidentally obtained by me when I was traveling the world. It only recorded the effect without a name, so I'll name it Soul-Tempering Longevity Replenishing Pill. Ryu Sinan and Gong Sun Ho were speechless. Naming it now was very particular. Jun Changshao said, what herbs do you need? I'll find them for you now. The herbs are very common, so there's no need to go through so much trouble to find them. However, Bailey Qianqiu said with a serious expression, someone needs to sacrifice part of their soul as the catalyst, and it must be extremely powerful to meet the refining standards. I'll do it. I'll do it. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others rushed to be the first. In order to make everyone stronger, Mistress had sacrificed a lot of her lifespan. It was natural for him to use his soul as the catalyst today. At this time, Jun Changshao clenched his small fists and roared, she's my wife. Of course she'll use my soul as the catalyst for the medicine. Go to hell. Yeah. Makes sense. Let's go cultivate. The disciples quickly disappeared from the medical hall. However, on the way, they were puzzled. The patriarch actually admitted that Rose of Flowers was his wife for the first time. Oh heavens above! Elder Wei, who was standing outside the courtyard, looked up and said solemnly, "The patriarch has finally been enlightened." Chapter 1625. Rose of Flowers' aging appearance was due to the consumption of a large amount of lifespan. According to Bailey Qianqiu's inference, normal medical skills could not cure her. She had to rely on herself to increase her realm or use a special method to make up for the lost lifespan. Coincidentally, when he was traveling around the world, he accidentally came across a folk prescription that could prolong one's lifespan. Birth, old age, illness, and death were the laws of heaven and earth. Forcibly increasing one's lifespan was a heaven-defying act. Therefore, to refine this pill, one had to use the soul as a guiding ingredient to achieve an equivalent exchange. To put it bluntly, want to live longer? Fine, exchange it with a strong soul. Isn't this pill recipe specially prepared for me? Jun Changshao was a little proud, because he thought that in terms of soul strength, he was not weaker than anyone. Indeed. The system said, the host's two biggest characteristics are first, a strong soul, and second, thick skin. Get lost. Jun Changshao said, list the supplementary herbs, I'll go buy them now. Bailey Qianqiu immediately wrote a list, but when he handed it over, he added, this is my first time refining this kind of pill, so I don't have much experience, so it's best to prepare dozens of copies. Dozens? Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Looking at the situation, he was going to refine dozens of times. It didn't matter whether he failed or not, but could Feng Xian's soul bear it again and again? Rose of Flowers said, the loss of the soul will cause serious consequences. Husband, please don't act recklessly. The loss of lifespan will also cause serious consequences. When you were in the abyss of life, did you think about it? Jun Changshao asked. I've made up my mind. Rose of Flowers did not speak. On the same day, the members of the procurement hall began to work. Fortunately, the supplementary herbs for refining the soul-tempering life-replenishing pill were relatively common, and the sect had a lot of them, so dozens of copies were prepared the next day. Ding ding ding. Ding ding ding. In the alchemy room, there was a sound. Ryu Sinan and Gong Sun Ho were dumbfounded, because Bailey Qianqiu was wearing a Taoist robe, holding a peachwood sword in one hand and the Three Purities bell in the other. He was swaying back and forth in front of the altar, as if he were opening the altar. Is this guy a doctor? Or a Taoist? Bailey Qianqiu muttered an incantation that no one could understand. Then, he put down all kinds of props and opened his mouth to spit at the candle. Immediately, it formed a fireball that soared into the sky and ignited the alchemy furnace next to him. All right. The disciples of the sect of all times clapped their hands in praise. This technique, this performance, must be given full marks. Jun Changshao, who was sitting behind the strange formation, had a wonderful expression on his face. This guy was opening the altar and performing acrobatics. He was giving off an extremely unreliable aura. Jun Patriarch. At this moment, Bailey Qianqiu said solemnly, relax your mind and sacrifice your soul. Who? Jun Changshao closed his eyes and released a wisp of his soul. Swish, swish, swish. Bailey Qianqiu picked up the peachwood sword and waved it in a fancy manner. In the end, he saw the soul wrapped around the sword. He secretly exclaimed, this little guy's soul is so strong. Gou Sheng's soul was strong. There was no doubt about that. Who? The fire intensified, and green smoke appeared. It's time. Bailey Qianqiu determined that the medicinal herbs inside were almost melted. He immediately opened the alchemy furnace and merged Jun Changxiao's soul into it. Then, he somersaulted to the front of the altar, picked up the Three Purity bell, and walked 8 steps outside while chanting a strange incantation. Professional. Sun Bukong gave him a thumbs up. Ryu Sinan and Gong Sun Ho rolled their eyes. They thought to themselves, is this guy a quack? Jun Changshao, who was sitting in the array, had an ugly expression on his face because the wisp of soul that he had sacrificed was burning in the alchemy furnace and mixed with various medicinal herbs. It did not taste good. Boom! Suddenly, the alchemy furnace exploded, and black smoke emerged. As expected. Bailey Qianqiu shook his head and said, it failed on the first try. Jun Changshao broke down. If the alchemy furnace exploded, wouldn't his soul be wasted? Continue. Failure was the mother of success. Bailey Qianqiu did not give up and took out the second set of medicinal herbs to refine. Boom! Boom! Therefore, every once in a while, there would be explosions in the alchemy room. Because of the frequent failures, several alchemy furnaces had been changed. Puff! After the 36th failure, Jun Changshao finally couldn't take it anymore and spat out blood. Although he had cultivated the soul-tempering sacred celestial technique and his soul could withstand the torment, playing like this would definitely kill him. Continue. Bailey Qianqiu said. Gong Sunho wanted to stop him, but when he saw the patriarch adjusting his sitting posture, he realized that he wanted to let the other party refine, so he could only swallow the words he wanted to say. Ryu Sinan's eyes were filled with respect. The loss of one's soul would bring about many unpredictable consequences. The patriarch had contributed and sacrificed time and time again. From this, it could be seen that his relationship with his wife was very deep. It even made him feel a strong sense of guilt. Guilt and regret for wholeheartedly cultivating martial arts in the past until he lost his true love. Ding! Suddenly, a crisp sound was heard. It's a success. Bailey Qianqiu excitedly walked to the alchemy furnace and took out a crystal-clear pill. Jun Changshao's pale face squeezed out a smile, then fell back and fainted gloriously. The pill was a success. He couldn't take it anymore. Refining pills was almost a failure, why didn't he just die? Due to the serious damage to his soul, Changshao fainted for 2 days and 2 nights. During this period, he had many dreams. For example, lying drunk on a beauty's lap, waking up with the power of the world, not asking for the wall of the city, but the killing sword. Another dream was in the east of Wuling City, riding a white horse with a silver saddle in the spring breeze, where the falling flowers wandered, laughing as he entered Huji's wine shop. Strange. The system was puzzled. After the host shrunk, why are the dreams so strange? It's completely different from before. Indeed. Jun Changshao had been very abnormal recently. He had always been sharp-tongued, but he couldn't keep up with his brain and said things that made people laugh. Especially when he said that Rose of Flowers was his wife in front of everyone. One had to know, as the boss of the steel industry, he had always been trying to avoid and avoid. Readers who didn't know the situation might guess that Go Sheng had been possessed. After all, his personality was very different from before. The third day. Jun Changshao woke up. Because his memory stopped at the stage of refining the pill, he asked, "Did you give it to her?" "You should be worried about yourself first." The system said, "You lost a lot of soul, your body is very weak, and it will take a long time to recover." This was not a problem. It had already become a habit to use the sword that was hard to stop, and to be weak for 2 years. And, the system said, "Your shedding is serious again." When it said the last few words, it was already trying hard to hold back its laughter, because Go Sheng's head was shiny, as if he had turned into a little monk. Damn! Jun Changshao jumped out of bed and saw his appearance through the bronze mirror. He roared, "You can't get over your bald head, can you?" Creak! The door was pushed open, and the fragrance of roses wafted in. Jun Changshao turned his head and saw Rose of Flowers walking in, shrouded in bright light. Her haggard face had recovered, her black hair was tied into a cloud bun, her eyebrows were curved like the moon, her eyes were as clear as water, and her face without makeup was sparkling like snow jade. She was captivating, overshadowing the moon and putting the flowers to shame. Due to cultural limitations, Jun Changshao could only think of such idioms to describe her appearance. "There's a problem." The system said, "There's definitely a problem with the host." Chapter 1626. After taking the soul-quenching life-replenishing pill, Rose of Flowers' lifespan was extended. The side effects of aging were also removed, and she regained her beauty. Normally, Jun Changshao should have gotten used to it, but now he was using idioms to describe that woman. It was too abnormal. Was this still the original Gosheng? Was this still the patriarch who was destined to be alone for the rest of his life? The system guessed, could it be that after the host turned into a child, his EQ was slowly unsealed? "You're awake." Rose of Flowers' voice was as gentle as water. Actually, after the pill was made, her appearance was restored. During the 2 days that Jun Changshao was in a coma, she was in charge of taking care of him. Jun Changshao moved his eyes away from that beautiful face and said, "Looks like that guy is quite capable. He really did restore your appearance." The system was relieved. He was still trying to avoid it. "Thank you," Rose of Flowers said. She had heard about the process of making the pill and knew that Jun Changshao had used up a lot of souls for her. "We're an old married couple. Don't you think it's okay to say thank you?" Jun Changshao said. "Fuck." The system said, "You've definitely been possessed. If it was before, you wouldn't have said that." Rose of Flowers was also very surprised. Jun Changshao said that they were an old married couple. She blushed and thought, has he finally accepted me? Munch, munch. In the cafeteria, Gosheng was like a mad dog, crazily devouring all the delicious food. Only when the plates were stacked a few dozen times did he finally sit back and burp. "Patriarch." Gong Sunho said, "What should we do with Bailey Qianqiu?" "Of course, we'll send him back to the city of Sin." TFFF. Bailey Qianqiu, who was eating at another table, immediately spat out the soup in his mouth when he heard this. He howled in his heart, "You're kicking me to the curb after I've outlived my usefulness." Although this person's medical skills are strange, to be able to cure Madame's illness, he is quite capable. It would be a waste to send him back to the city of Sin. Gong Sunho lowered his voice, "Why don't we lock him up in the clan?" "You've reminded me." Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. Then, he took out some paper and ink and started writing. On the same day, his handwritten letter was delivered to Jie Mountain. "Paw!" The Realm Hall's hall master opened it and took a look. He angrily smashed the table and said, "You've gone too far." His fury stemmed from the contents of the letter. "Bailey Qianqiu is guilty and should be punished. I have decided to execute the punishment on behalf of the Jie Hall and imprison him in the Sect of all times until he is released upon completion of his sentence." "Damn it!" one of the higher-ups said angrily, "The Sect of all times is just a sect. What right does it have to act on behalf of the Jie Hall? Please allow it." Someone said, "Does that mean we are not allowed to refuse? It's obvious that they want to ride on our heads. If this can be tolerated, what else can we tolerate?" The higher-ups of the Jie Hall were furious, but they could only attribute it to incompetence. Because if someone suggested going to the Sect of all times to demand an explanation, there would definitely be an awkward silence. They would even remember that the back that was drying in the yard had not been taken yet. Creak. The cell door opened. The room was dark. Bailey Qianqiu, who was wearing a zebra prison uniform and holding a blanket, walked in. The patriarch said. Gong Sunho said, "Being imprisoned in the city of Sin is the same as being imprisoned in the Sect of all times. From now on, you will spend the rest of your life here." Gong Sunho. Bailey Qianqiu skillfully placed the blanket on the bed and roared, "Is this how the Sect of all times treats its benefactor?" He was punished. In the end, he still had to be imprisoned. His heart was bitter. He wanted to cry. Gong Sunho laughed, "My sect's prison is more comfortable than the city of Sin. My sect's food is more delicious than the city of Sin. You should be grateful instead of yelling." This point. Bailey Qianqiu did not deny it. Of course. Gong Sunho said, the patriarch also said that if you perform well during your prison term, you can reduce your sentence. Elder Sunday Su Xiaoma walked over and said, it's time to eat. Pa! The table was placed outside the cell. All kinds of delicious food were arranged neatly. Waves of fragrance wafted over, deeply stimulating Bailey Qianqiu's taste buds. He almost drooled on the spot. This is your lunch. Su Xiaoma pushed in a small bowl from the gap in the cell. In the bowl, there were 2 steamed buns and a few salted vegetables. Bailey Qianqiu looked like he was about to collapse. This is the food of your sect of all times? Gong Sunho and Su Xiaoma ignored him and took their seats. They began to gobble up the delicious food in front of him. Good. Good. Bailey Qianqiu brought the bowl over. He chewed on the steamed buns as if he was angry. He couldn't help but look at the food outside. He could only swallow his saliva. At first, he didn't pay much attention to it. But in the next few days, whenever it was time to eat, the 2 of them would bring the table over and eat. Only then did he realize that they were purposely baiting him. TSK TSK. Lu Shimi's meatballs are so delicious. Don't just eat. Come, come, have a drink. Su Xiaoma and Gong Sunho ate and drank, making Bailey Qianqiu drool. He looked down at the steamed buns in his hand and cried out in his heart, it doesn't taste good. The next day, Su Xiaoma and Gong Sunho came again. However, before the 2 of them started eating, Bailey Qianqiu couldn't help but roar, what is your goal? It's very simple. Gong Sunho said, to join the sect of all times. I see. Bailey Qianqiu had been thinking for the past few days. They were purposely baiting him. There must be a reason. Now, he finally understood. No. If you have something to say, just say it. Using this method to bait me is too inhumane. It's not that he didn't want to say it. It's just that when Jun Changshao brought him back to the sect from the city of Sin, he realized that Bailey Qianqiu was an unyielding person. Therefore, he didn't have the nerve to open his mouth. Instead, he used the old method. Gong Sunho. Bailey Qianqiu said coldly, you've been my colleague for so long. Don't you know what kind of person I am? Don't even think about using such despicable methods to force me to submit. Forgive me for being unrestrained and indulgent in my life. I'm also afraid that one day I'll fall. Under the accompaniment of the boundless sea and sky, the prison cell slowly opened. Bailey Qianqiu walked out from inside. Then, he tidied up the sect of all times uniform that he had just changed into. It was very comfortable. It fit very well. He wasn't afraid. It was just like the lyrics. Forgive me for being unrestrained and indulgent in my life. For the sake of freedom, Bailey Qianqiu chose to compromise. Now, the 3 great demon slayers of the Realm Hall were all gathered in the sect of all times. It could be said that they were a family. As expected. As long as the hoe was used well, there was no corner that couldn't be dug down. Unfortunately, he recruited a middle-level truth-seeking realm, so the epic mission didn't increase. Therefore, Jun Changshao still had to think of a way to complete the other targets in just 1 year. Swoosh! He opened the shop and prayed, I hope that I can get something good this time. Recently, because of the matter with rows of flowers, as soon as the cooldown was restored, it would be refreshed. Unfortunately, every time he had hope, he would be disappointed. Ding! Ding! Frequent refreshes sounded in his mind. After more than 10 times, the item he wanted still didn't appear. He couldn't help but feel depressed. Another refresh. Jun Changshao directly jumped up and blurted out, Abyss of Life? That's right. The words, Abyss of Life, were written on the second column in the first row of the shop. Item, Abyss of Life Introduction, a mysterious forbidden area from a certain plane. Effect, By sacrificing one's lifespan, martial artists can quickly advance to the lower-level truth-seeking realm. Disadvantage: unknown side effects will occur after consuming one's lifespan. Price: 5,000 reputation points. From the introduction, Jun Changshao immediately determined that this was definitely the abyss of life that had helped his disciple advance to the next realm. Therefore, he roared, "Dog of a system, and you said that the items sold in the shop weren't stolen from other planes." Chapter 1627. Jun Changshao knew that some of the items in the store were stolen, such as the 7 mysterious rays broken scroll. It was only when the abyss of life appeared that he realized that all the items he bought were stolen. The system said, "The host spent money to buy them, how can that be considered stealing?" Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and said, "That's true, my ass. If I didn't know, I was innocent. Now that I know, if I buy them again, won't I be an accomplice?" "That's fine." The system said, "Host, don't use the store anymore, just stay at home and be a saint." Jun Changshao fell into a dilemma again. If it were not for the reader's reading, he would not have any psychological burden if he had to teach them the correct values. Go Sheng wanted to do whatever he wanted, but he was restrained by morality. It was too difficult. After thinking about it again and again, Jun Changshao did not buy the abyss of life in the end because he needed to set an example. Because he could enter the upper realm at any time, why would he spend reputation points to buy it? If it really did not work, he could send people from the formation hall to study it and then move it to the sect. The system said, "Aren't you afraid that people will accuse you of bringing disaster to the upper realm? Causing other martial artists to lose the opportunity to cultivate?" "I'm saving them." Jun Changshao said sanctimoniously, "Isn't it good to live a few more years? Do you have to waste your lifespan without restraint?" On the same day, the old man Taixien brought Jin Dejuan and the others to the abyss of life. As long as they could overcome the formation system, it would not be a problem to settle them in the back mountain of the sect of all times. In fact, the reason why Jun Changshao wanted to move away was because it appeared in the store. Did it not mean that it could be taken away? Between buying and moving, he would definitely choose the latter, at least, it would save him money. The system roared, "Stop talking about values, stop making the readers take the blame, you're just worried about your reputation points." After confirming that the items in the store were stolen, Jun Changshao was even more amazed by the system's magic. After all, many of the items were too awesome, since they existed in the world, the creator must be extraordinary. Of course. He was even more panicked. After careful calculation, after transmigrating to the other world, he bought countless items from the store, such as the Tower of Experience and various arcane realms. Since they were stolen, did that not mean that he made a lot of enemies? AI. Jun Changshao sighed. Then, he refreshed the merchant shop. In the end, he used up all his subsequent uses, and nothing good came out. "I'm used to it." He also accepted it. He couldn't give up on life just because he didn't have a cheat. Jun Changshao called for the higher-ups of the sect and reminded them to be more focused. Actually, the effects of the Elder's cultivation room were pretty good. During this period of time, Ding Xingwang, Old Gu, and the others had obviously improved, but it was a little difficult to break through the mission value within the time limit. Damned limit. Jun Changshao yearned for the lower realm version. At the very least, as long as he had enough contribution points, he would be able to refresh endlessly. Right now, although he could refresh 30 times for free if he recharged his account, he would have to obediently wait for the next month. "I want to be a kryptonite tycoon." However, the damned new version didn't give them a chance. The mountain and sea realm. Gu Zhaoxi sat alone in the courtyard in a daze. Beside him was a long chain. That was right. He took it from his own grave. Gu Zhaoxi recovered a lot of his memories, but he couldn't remember how he joined the sect of all times and how he died, so he had been thinking about it ever since he came back. "Son." Gu Tianxing walked over and said, "Is there something on your mind?" "No, Gu Xiaoxi pretended to be a child and smiled brightly. Unlike Jun Changxiao's passive shrinking, he was truly reincarnated, but his adult mind was still there. He had to perform every day, and it was a little tiring to live. If you want to forget some things, don't think about it. If you don't want to forget some things, you can't forget them even if you force yourself to, Gu Qianqing said. Gu Xiaoxi scratched his head and said with a blank face, Father's words are so strange, I don't understand. Gu Qianqing patted his head and smiled. According to your father's understanding, the Azure Sea system has a total of 32 special spirits. The one in your body should be the reincarnation spirit, right? Reincarnation spirit? Although Gu Xiaoxi looked blank, his heart was in turmoil. It's over. Was he seen through? Those who have reincarnated are immortal. Gu Qianqing said, it's also a great opportunity for you to obtain such a rare spirit. Father, you said it. Gu Xiaoxi pretended to be stupid, I really don't understand. Pa! Gu Qianqing flicked his forehead and said with a smile, stop pretending, since the day you were born, the spirit seed in your dantian was discovered by your father. Gu Xiaoxi was silent. His performance was so perfect, how was he discovered? Thinking about it, his father was so strong that destroying the spirit world battleships was like playing, it was normal that he couldn't hide it from him. Son. Mother Gu walked out of the room and said, I planned to wait until you grew up to tell you. Fine. Mother knew. Alas. Gu Xiaoxi no longer pretended to be a child, an expression that didn't match his age appeared on his face, and said, yes, I have the reincarnation spirit. After a pause, he said with shame, I'm sorry for deceiving you for so long. Son. Gu Qianqing stood up and looked at the sky with his hands behind his back, and said, people reincarnate after death, it's destiny. Don't feel ashamed to face your parents just because you have the reincarnation spirit. Gu Xiaoxi was a little stunned. Since he was exposed, he was ready to part ways, but his father's words obviously meant that he would accept his son who was reincarnated by cheating. Mother Gu said, you can become our son, it's destiny. Mother. Gu Xiaoxi was a little moved. He had reincarnated countless times, but only this time he experienced the feelings of family. Son. Gu Qianqing turned to look at him, and said in a serious tone, remember, you are my son in this life, Gu Qianqing's blood. You can't change it in this life. His voice was strong and strong, shaking Gu Xiaoxi to the depths of his soul. Thud. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the two elders, saying, Father and Mother, you gave birth to me and raised me. I, Gu Xiaoxi, am your son. Gu Xiaoxi. Mother Gu thought for a while, and said, I think that's the name engraved on the tombstone in the back mountain of the Sect of all times. When she called her son to eat, she released her spiritual sense and accidentally saw the tomb. That's right. Gu Xiaoxi said, this is my identity in the upper realm in my previous life, an elder of the Sect of all times, Gu Xiaoxi. His voice was also very loud. Although he didn't know why, the words Sect of all times seemed to contain some kind of power that forced him to be proud. No wonder. Gu Qianqing said in realization, ever since you came back from the upper realm, you've been distracted. Father. Gu Xiaoxi clenched his fist, and said, I didn't choose to stay in the Sect of all times because I hope to learn more martial arts from you. I don't want to lower myself to others anymore, and I don't want to reincarnate again. Those who had reincarnated were immortal. This sounded good, but only those who had experienced it would understand how painful it was, because the root cause of every death was that they weren't strong enough. I want to become stronger. Gu Xiaoxi said, gods and demons can't do anything to me. I understand. Gu Qianqing turned around, and his back gradually darkened. He said in an extremely serious tone, tomorrow, I'll start teaching you martial arts. This path may be very difficult, but if you don't want to reincarnate again, you must endure until the end. I will. Gu Xiaoxi said with a determined gaze, endure until the end. Chapter 1628. In an illusory place. Gu Tianqing brought Gu Zhaoxi in. From today onwards, he was going to start martial arts training for this reincarnated son of his. The duration was tentatively set for 5 years. No matter what your identity was in your previous life, from today onwards, forget all the martial arts you have learned. Don't even think about cultivating them because it is a waste of time and life, Gu Tianqing said. These words were arrogant. Chopping down a battleship with an axe, he had the right to be arrogant. Understood. Gu Zhaoxi knew how strong his father was, so he had never considered martial arts since he was born. He was hoping that his father would nurture him, this beautiful jade. Come. Gu Tianqing said, begin. Swish. Swish. As soon as he said that, clones appeared and said, this is a martial art that your father created with his life's effort. It is called the Major Thousand Shadows art. Today, I will impart it to you. It will help your martial arts cultivation in the future. Major Thousand Shadows art. Gu Zhaoxi felt that it sounded familiar, but he couldn't remember it. It could be seen that although he recalled part of his memories in the sect of all times, he couldn't remember the martial arts he cultivated. Otherwise, he would have shouted, isn't this the unique martial art of Old Brother's sect? Of course. Gu Tianqing explained, the Major Thousand Shadows art isn't used for combat, but to provide comprehension of martial arts. Your father's achievements in martial arts and medicine originated from this. Sit down. I will impart you the chant now. N. Gu Zhaoxi sat down, his eyes shining with anticipation. A martial art created by an expert like his father would definitely be extraordinary. Of course. Gu Tianqing reminded, this martial art that your father created is unfathomable. You might not be able to grasp it on your first try, so don't be too impatient. After all, in martial arts, more haste less speed. I will remember father's teachings. Listen well. Gu Tianqing said the chant one by one and added, when you return home, ask your mother for the secret manual. Gu Zhaoxi's mouth twitched. The martial arts created by the father were safeguarded by the mother on behalf of the father. From this, one could see how high the status of the family was. Son. Gu Tianqing also sat down and said, you should have a foundation in martial arts. Cultivate on your own first. If there's anything you don't understand, tell me. Father will give you a pointer or two. Everyone envied him for being a father. All right. Gu Zhaoxi concealed his spirit and qi and began to ponder over the incantation his father had taught him. His small eyebrows immediately furrowed. Gu Tianqing took out a table from his spatial ring and put down a plate of peanuts and a flask of wine. It seemed that he intended to pour a few cups. Father. Gu Zhaoxi asked, did mother allow you to drink? Gu Tianqing threw him a peanut and reprimanded, the biggest taboo in martial arts is to be distracted. Quickly calm down and cultivate. As for drinking, don't tell your mother when you go back. All right, all right. Gu Zhaoxi didn't think much and continued to comprehend the Great Thousand Shadows incantation. Gu Tianqing ate peanuts and drank wine. He thought to himself, I've cleansed my son's marrow and bones in the past 2 years. There's no problem with his physique. I wonder how his aptitude is. The reason why he had taught him the Great Thousand Shadows incantation was mainly to test his aptitude. If he could lower the standard to 10 days in 3 days, he would be considered very qualified. He would definitely be a great talent in the future. Father. At this time, Gu Zhaoxi's shout interrupted his thoughts. He immediately frowned and said, what's wrong? The most important thing in martial arts was to calm down. Gu Tianqing was very disappointed that he had been interrupted when he had just started cultivating. That, Gu Zhaoxi scratched his head and said, I seem to have learned it. What? Gu Tianqing said in surprise, learned it? Yes. Gu Zhaoxi nodded. Bullshit. Gu Tianqing stood up and walked over. He pulled his son's ear and scolded, you learned it in less than 10 minutes? Do you think I'm a fool? I really learned it. Gu Zhaoxi said with grievance, "Father, if you don't believe me, I'll show you." "Okay." Gu Tianqing let go of him and took a step back. He cupped his hands and said, "If you can show me, I won't touch a drop of wine from now on." Such confidence came from the fact that it took him thousands of years to create the Great Thousand Shadows incantation. Even if his son was extremely talented, it was impossible for him to learn it in less than 10 minutes. Phew! Gu Zhaoxi exhaled and then closed his eyes. Strange incantations appeared in his sea of consciousness and then turned into crisscrossing figures. Buzz! His body shook and a clone appeared. Gu Tianqing saw it and his expression became sluggish. Then he slowly opened his mouth. That's right. From the aura and shape, it was indeed the Great Thousand Shadows incantation. Am I dreaming? Gu Tianqing hurriedly rubbed his eyes. After confirming that his son had condensed a genuine clone, he said in disbelief, "How is this possible?" In the thatched cottage. Mrs. Gu rummaged through the cabinets and took out an exquisite box. She casually removed the layers of seals on the surface. "Husband, you have foresight. I've collected martial arts in advance so that I can pass them on to my son in the future." When the box was opened, there were many ancient secret manuals inside. At this time, if there were powerhouses present, they would definitely be envious to the point of tears. This was because every martial arts manual inside was the most precious in the entire upper universe. Great Thousand Shadows incantation. Mrs. Gu muttered and then searched one by one. Her expression gradually changed because she couldn't find it. Has it been stolen? She immediately denied this guess. The secret manuals were placed in the box with many seals on the surface. Now that the seals were intact, it meant that they had not been touched, let alone stolen. Could it be that I didn't put it in? Mrs. Gu began to think hard. She remembered that she took it from her husband and put it in. This shouldn't be possible. No. Something was fishy. Mrs. Gu sat down and carefully recalled until she remembered that when she asked her husband for the secret manuals, he repeatedly refused. She frowned and said, "He must have done something in advance and secretly exchanged the secret manuals for wine." Gu Tianqing. Get back here. Gu Tianqing, who was teaching his son, suddenly heard a sharp shout and was immediately shaken to the side. Oh no. Your mother is angry. Wife, I'm innocent. I gave the secret manuals to you. They suddenly disappeared. How can you blame me? I swear, I didn't exchange them for wine. The next day. In the illusory land, Gu Tianqing stood with his hands behind his back. The aura of an immortal was particularly strong. Father. Gu Zhaoxi said weakly, "Are you sure you don't need treatment?" No need. Gu Tianqing said, "I can take it." The camera gradually turned and only saw that there were big lumps on his face. His eyes were squashed into a line. It was a terrible sight. Amazing. Gu Zhaoxi was in awe. His father didn't say a word when his mother used domestic violence yesterday. He must have gone through a lot to reach such a high level. Gu Tianqing. Get back here. Mrs. Gu's shrill voice suddenly came. Gu Tianqing broke down. Oh my God, did I lose something again? He guessed right. After returning to the cottage, Mrs. Gu put another exquisite box on the table and shouted, "Did you sell the Mind Illumination Sutra and the Heaven Crossing palm print?" No. Definitely not. The seal was intact. How could it be gone? I don't know. Sect of all times. After Jun Changshao took a shower and changed his clothes, he sat in the study and opened the shop. He prayed, "I don't expect to see anything that can help raise my level. At least give me some immortal level martial arts." Chapter 1629. Magnificent Reflection Sutra, Heaven Crossing Palm Print. The reward for completing the first epic mission of the Upper Realm version was to help the sect to have a suitable martial art to cultivate when they first came to a higher realm. In the end, it was stolen from Gu Tianqing. Thousand Shadows Art. The hidden reward for completing the side mission. After cultivation, one could condense shadows and cultivate martial arts, medicine, and so on faster. In the end, it was stolen from Gu Tianqing again. What was this? Catching a sheep and pulling its wool with all his might. The 3 martial arts were given as rewards and were not obtained by spending 3 points. Therefore, one could not blame Jun Changshao for this. Even Gu Tianqing had to thank him because, phew. In the illusory land, Gu Xiaoxi waved his small hand and energy gathered between his 5 fingers. In an instant, he unleashed an extremely standard heaven-crossing palm print and smiled brightly. Father, I've learned it. Gu Tianqing, whose face was bruised and swollen, was dumbfounded. He had just imparted the chance to him. It had only been 10 minutes and he had learned it again. His aptitude was too monstrous. These 2 martial arts might be suitable for him. Let's try another one. Gu Tianqing was more stable and was not in a hurry to conclude his son's aptitude. Therefore, he imparted the magnificent Reflection Sutra to him. In the end, he learned it after a while. Genius! Super genius! Gu Tianqing was so excited that he did not care about the injuries on his face and forced himself to be overjoyed. Gu Xiaoxi's rapid cultivation was due to the fact that he had learned it in the Sect of all times. Although his memory was gone, his knowledge of martial arts was still there. When he came into contact with it again, it was easy. Therefore, Gu Tianqing had to thank Jun Changshao because he had taught his son in advance. Our point of view has been explained. Thank you. The camera returned to the Sect of all times. Jun Changshao sat in the study room like a devout believer. He began to refresh for the new month and prayed for useful goods to appear. He had been very anxious recently. He was so anxious that he had constipation. There were only 3 to 5 months left before the completion of the epic mission. Although the core disciples had met the requirements, there was still no news from the other disciples. Therefore, whether they could complete it or not depended on the shop. Ding! Ding! The system refreshed continuously. Judging from the frequency, it was obvious that nothing good had come out. Ah! After a total of 20 times, Jun Changshao hugged his bald little head with both hands and roared, "I'm a VIP customer, why can't I get anything good?" The system said, "You can't rush this. If you don't hurry, it's almost time for the mission." Jun Changshao was in low spirits, but seeing that there were still 10 chances left, he could only force himself to continue refreshing. As a result, he casually scrolled down and jumped up with a whoosh. The expression on his face gradually became ecstatic, perverted, and twisted. Seeing this description, a certain reader was not happy, because this indicated that Goxing must have gained a lot. That was right. After countless attempts and failures, Jun Changshao was finally touched by the heavens. He was finally bestowed with the power of the European Emperor. He directly obtained a box with a big question mark engraved on it from the shop. It's coming. It's coming. It was here with the supreme goods. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. In the study, the sound of geese could be heard. Coincidentally, rows of flowers passed by outside and looked through the door. She saw her husband squatting on the table, covering his face with both hands and laughing wildly. She thought to herself, so cute. Throughout the whole book, even the author himself did not know how many times the supreme items appeared, but there was one thing that was undeniable: the items that were obtained were absolutely top-notch, such as the life and death secret realm, the one-hit kill, and the red underwear that Z always wore. Of course. It was not the first time the supreme goods had appeared in the upper realm. The previous mission rewarded him with the right to purchase it, and he obtained the Virokana palm. However, because it was too mysterious, Jun Changshao had not used it in actual combat until now. Fuck. Why is it 2,000 more expensive? Looking at the big question mark with the price of 14,000 reputation points, Goxing suddenly collapsed. Don't buy it if you think it's expensive. The system said, refresh it. Scram. Jun Changshao scolded. In the end, he suppressed his heartache and spent the reputation points to buy it, but he was only left with 1,000 reputation points. If it was any other ordinary prestige item, Gulam might have considered it for a while. However, he had never been disappointed with a supreme item before. Therefore, whether or not he could get an item that could help him increase his realm, it was worth spending a lot of money to gamble on it. Phew! He closed his eyes and put his palms together. After a prayer, Gosheng reached out and touched it. Its surface rippled with golden light. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining one punch kill x1. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining one simulated battlefield x1. The big box faded, and a secret manual and a teleportation portal appeared in the space ring. One punch kill. Jun Changshao was overjoyed. Is this the upgraded version of one punch kill? Swish! He hurriedly opened the front page of the secret manual. The words engraved inside suddenly seemed to come alive, then turned into streams of light and merged into his sea of consciousness, gradually evolving into a complex image. Soon, Jun Changshao learned this martial art. The system complained. Knowing that the host's aptitude and IQ are not enough, they started to force the subsequent martial arts that appeared. Jun Changshao put his hands on his waist and laughed loudly. Not only did he learn one punch kill, but he also understood the principle. This martial art was indeed very similar to one punch kill, but since it was obtained from the upper realm version of the supreme goods, it would definitely be many times stronger. One punch kill. It was not difficult to tell from the name that as long as this martial art was used, there was no doubt about it. One punch kill's activation condition was that someone had to act cool to charge it. Strictly speaking, it was a typical passive skill. One punch kill also had an activation condition, but one could use it without waiting for others to provoke, so it was an active skill. Let's give it a try. Jun Changshao did not care about the simulated battlefield for the time being. He went to the training field outside the main hall and naturally got into a battle posture. Patriarch wants to show off his skills? Let's go. The nearby disciples surrounded him. Phew! Jun Changshao took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Buzz buzz! The space vibrated slightly and the dust under his feet floated. Ryu Sinan had just walked out of the cafeteria when he suddenly felt a fluctuation in the training field. He frowned and said, "What a strange aura. It's the Patriarch." Gong Sunho's face was red as he pulled up his pants and walked out of the outhouse. It could be said that when Jun Changshao stood in the training field, it was as if he had merged with heaven and earth. Everyone in the sect of all times looked at him and were surprised by the special aura that gathered around him. Swoosh! Suddenly, Gosheng raised his hand and placed it on his temples. He said loudly, "Say it out loud, am I handsome?" Plop! All the disciples fell to the ground. The Patriarch had been preparing in the training field for a long time, and in the end, they could not take it anymore. Handsome! Su Xiaoma shouted. Handsome! Handsome! All the disciples echoed. Ding! Must kill, charge 5%. After hearing the sound, Jun Changshao's body shook, and two clones appeared out of thin air, standing in a triangular formation. Two clones. The Patriarch is indeed the Patriarch. The disciples' eyes were filled with strong admiration. They had been practicing the 1,000 clones art for a long time, but they had always been stuck at condensing a clone. Stars! Jun Changshao raised his hand and said, "Music." Pa! Yixingchen pressed the play button on the magically modified sound system, and a dynamic melody suddenly came out. Is this your excuse for breaking up? If you could start over, would you love me? As the song rang out, Jun Changshao's original body and clone pressed their hands in front of their waist, and their buttocks swayed to the beat. When the disciples saw this, the corners of their mouths twitched. So tacky, so embarrassing. Ding! Must kill, charge 10%. 20%. 30%. 100%. Jun Changshao gathered the shame energy in everyone's body, and the martial skills energy was successfully stored. He stopped his awkward dance and recalled his two doppelgangers. Then, he stomped on the ground and shot into the sky like a cannonball. Must kill. Who? Caw caw. Strong winds blew, and the space cracked. Outside the Aeon Immortal Mountain, the cultivators who were rushing or flying were all alarmed. They looked at the huge peach-like crack in the sky in shock. Ta! Within the sect, Jun Changshao landed on the training field. His small back and shiny forehead looked grand and resplendent under the sunlight. Ryu Sinan and Gongsun Ho were dumbfounded. As witnesses, they clearly saw the sect master fly up into the sky and casually shake his butt, and directly, smashed a huge but imprint in the space. Was this what he had just shouted? One strike kill. Chapter 1630. Jun Changshao successfully used the sure-kill technique, directly smashing a huge peach-shaped dent in the sky. The scene was very shocking. The passers-by outside the Aeon Immortal Mountain were all dumbfounded. In conclusion, the condition to use this kind of martial arts technique was to accumulate enough shame points. See Jun Changshao's narcissism and the Master of Shadow Stream's dance. Although it was a little strange, it was still the active type. As for the attack method, it was even more unusual. It did not use the hands, feet, or head, but the butt. With a single move, the space collapsed. Just thinking about it made people feel awe. Not bad. Jun Changshao smiled in satisfaction. The system was speechless. This kind of shameless and shameful move is simply tailor-made for the host. Indeed. Any martial artist with a status would not use it because they could not afford to lose face. Jun Changshao was very handsome, everyone knew that, but he was not an idol. He was an actor, so since he did not rely on his face to make a living, it did not matter to him whether he used it or not. What kind of power was that just now? All over the upper realm, many powerhouses looked at the peach-shaped crack in the sky in the distance, and their expressions all became solemn. The power came from the sect of all times. Could it be that someone used some kind of profound martial arts technique? On this day, a crack similar to a clam appeared in the sky, and it instantly became the top trending topic, becoming the focus of discussion. Ling Tian Immortal Sect. Patriarch Lin Haoyan stood on the mountain peak. He looked at the faintly visible space crack in the distance and said rather worriedly, "This sect of all times is getting more and more dangerous." Sigh. The elder next to him sighed. The Jie Hall did react back then, but we did not take it seriously. Now that they are fully fledged, I'm afraid they will do something out of line in the future. Isn't it out of line to drive a warship to the Jie mountain to ask for someone? Lin Haoyan said. The elder was silent. It was quite out of line. The Jie Hall handing over Bailey Qianqiu was almost equivalent to losing their reputation. Inform the other 9 sections. Lin Haoyan said with a serious gaze, let's discuss. Yes. On that day, 9 letters flew out of the Ling Tian celestial sect and landed in the 9 major celestial sects. Back then, the demon ancestor had plans to wreak havoc in the upper realm, but it was detected by the 10 great celestial sects in advance. The 10 great celestial sects gathered the power of all clans to destroy it. They truly managed to nip the danger in the bud in advance. Now that Jun Changshao had forced his way into the realm hall, they could sense that something was wrong. Therefore, they had to take precautions. The star spirit world had invaded. Although Jun Changshao did not have a strong performance, he dared to take the initiative to attack for the upper realm. There was nothing wrong with his character and worldview. After the matter was over, he began to be targeted by the 10 great celestial sects. Not only was it very realistic, it also showed that he had stepped onto the big stage from a young age and could pose a threat. In the extreme cave abode. After Masato Kitano heard the news from the red-crowned crane, he said, "You guessed right, the crack in the sky is related to your disciple." Jinren Tonggu frowned. Go Sheng had caused such a big commotion, which made him both happy and worried. He was happy because his disciple had become stronger, and his chances of winning the promise of 10 years were higher. He was worried because the more outstanding his disciple's performance was, the easier it would be for the celestial sects to target him. In my opinion, Masato Kitano said, your disciple has the support of the Stone Statue clan and the Dragon clan. The 10 great celestial sects won't dare to act rashly. The demon ancestors' strength back then could be considered the strongest in the upper realm. Wasn't it destroyed by them because he was a threat? Jinren Tonggu said. Masato Kitano was silent. Jinren Tonggu said, the upper realm structure has existed for a long time. The 10 great celestial sects are used to being high and mighty and making laws. Naturally, they don't want to see a martial artist who challenges their authority. Old friend. Masato Kitano said with a serious expression, no matter what happens in the future, I'll support you unconditionally. The two of them had played chess for many years. Although they did not finish the game because of regret, there was no doubt about their friendship. Let's go. Jinren Tonggu stood up and said, let's go to the Sect of all times. He needed to tell his disciple about his worries so that he could be prepared in advance to avoid being tricked by the 10 great celestial sects. Sect of all times, back of the mountain. Whoosh whoosh. A brand new vortex gradually formed at the entrance. Patriarch, what arcane realm is this? Su Xiaoma asked curiously. A simulated battlefield. Hearing the word battlefield, Su Xiaoma first thought of the dimensional battlefield, so he asked with a burning gaze, can I fight with the enemy to my heart's content when I go in? That's right. Jun Changshao nodded. There was a detailed manual for the simulated battlefield, and he had already flipped through it. He had a basic understanding of its specific functions, but the most depressing thing was that anyone in the sect could enter except for the Patriarch. Fuck. Discrimination. Old Ding, old Go. Jun Changshao called Ding Xingwang and the other higher-ups over and said, there are all kinds of powerful creatures in the simulated battlefield. Killing one will give you the corresponding points, which can be used to exchange for martial arts experience. You can take the disciples in every 7 days to train. Martial arts experience? Everyone's eyes lit up. Passing the life and death arcane realm would also give them martial arts experience, so they understood the benefits very well. Let's go. Old Ding, Old Gu, and the others led the disciples into the simulated battlefield. Because according to the settings, the number of people who could enter each time was limited to 500, some elders and inner disciples had to wait for the next round. The so-called simulation was fictional. When Ding Xingwang and Old Gu led hundreds of disciples in, they could clearly feel the desolation and the emptiness of the sky. It's a bit eerie. Su Xiaoma's expression gradually became serious. Buzz! Buzz! Suddenly, in the desolate area in front of them, warriors of different shapes and clothes appeared one after another. They looked very unreal, but they emitted powerful auras. 500 people. There were truth-seeking realm and core realm. Die! A bearded old man slowly opened his eyes, flashing with killing intent. Swoosh! 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 Behind him, hundreds of warriors rushed over. They either gathered powerful energy or took out all kinds of weapons. Formation! Ding Xingwang shouted. The disciples of the Sect of all times, who had experienced all kinds of experiences, were not flowers in a greenhouse. Seeing the enemy coming over, they quickly entered battle mode. Kill! Kill! A fierce battle was about to break out. Inside the main hall, Jinren Tonggu sat down, and his expression was a bit interesting. He had already heard that Jun Changshao went to the realm hall to ask for someone, especially when he heard that the former had transformed into a 3 to 5-year-old child. Today, He saw that it was indeed true. Master. Jun Changshao took a bite of the apple and smiled. How come you have time to come to my sect of all times? Jinren Tonggu rolled his eyes and said, do you think that the 10 great immortal sects will let it go just because you asked for Bailey Qianqiu from the Realm Hall? Jun Changshao said, are they still planning to hold a grudge? Disciple. Jinren Tonggu said seriously, the 10 great immortal sects are the rulers of the upper realm. If you go to the Realm Hall and ask for someone, not only will you be slapping them in the face, but you will also make them feel uneasy. That's right. Jun Changshao said, I want to make them feel uneasy and uncomfortable. Jinren Tonggu said speechlessly, 100,000 years ago, the demon ancestor also made the 10 great immortal sects feel uneasy and was destroyed in the end. Master, do you mean that they will join forces to go against me? The 10 great immortal sects do not allow forces that are beyond their control. Otherwise, they will do their best to eradicate them. Jun Changshao laughed. He took a few bites of the apple and shook his little head. Today, I will say that if the 10 great immortal sects dare to have any ideas about the sect of all times, I will eradicate them first. He was not angry. He did not exaggerate his emotions. The process and tone of his speech were very calm, as if he did not care. Jinren Tonggu and Masato Kitano looked at each other, and a thought came to their minds. This guy might really be able to do it. Chapter 1631. Daoist Tonggu and Daoist Qi packed up the 1,000-point fried rice and left. This made Jun Changshao wonder if they were here to warn him about the 10 great celestial sects or to freeload. Your master is right, the system said. We have to be on guard. Yes. Jun Chang smiled and said, how can narrow-minded people like the 10 great immortal sects tolerate a force stronger than them? However, he sneered and said, I'm not as unlucky as the demon ancestor. If they dare to target the sect of all times, I'll definitely turn them into ashes. Jun Changshao might not have the strength to destroy the celestial sects, but because of the 3 races, he was not afraid. If he was given some time to develop, he would step on their heads sooner or later. Patriarch. At this time, Ding Xingwang hurried into the hall. The elder uniform he was wearing was tattered, and he looked very haggard. You're out? Yes. What did you get? Very good. Ding Xingwang's eyes were abnormally hot. He brought the first batch of disciples into the simulation battlefield. In just 4 hours, they experienced fierce battles and finally killed 500 martial artists of unknown origins, obtaining a large number of points. Whoever killed them would get the points. Ding Xingwang, Old Gu, and the other higher-ups were stronger, so they took the bigger share. The disciples more or less also gained something. After the training ended, when everyone was teleported out, a notification sounded in their ears, asking if they were willing to exchange their points for martial Dao experience. Was there a need to think? Of course, they chose yes. Ding! Experience exchange successful. Ding! Experience exchange successful. Whoosh whoosh. In an instant, the higher-ups and disciples were enveloped by majestic martial Dao mysteries, which gradually merged into their consciousness and dantian, becoming an inseparable part. It was similar to Jun Changshao's cultivation, which was directly instilled into them. They had to do it. I report. They all cheated. I broke through. Li Tiantian was so excited that he jumped up and down. I broke through to the 7th transformation. I broke through too. Song Xianzhou, Yang Yuhua, and the others also advanced by 1 transformation. As the second batch of core disciples, their strength was at the middle to high level of the revolving core realm. But now, just by casually killing a monster and exchanging it for experience, their strength had risen. This was a little crazy. Ding Xingwang and the other senior executives did not level up after exchanging their points, which meant that it was very difficult for them to break through to the truth-seeking realm even if they cheated. But Suddenly obtaining a large amount of martial arts experience also benefited them greatly. After drinking a pot of cold water, Ding Xingwan calmed down and said, "According to my calculation, if I go in and cultivate a few more times, I can break through to the middle level of the truth-seeking stage." "How many times?" 3 or 4 times. Jun Changshao was elated. The simulated battlefield had a cooldown just like the spacetime secret realm, but it could be restored in half a month. 3 or 4 times would only take 1 or 2 months. If he and the other elders could break through, they could definitely meet the requirements of the mission. "Old Ding," Jun Changshao said solemnly, "from now on, you and the other higher-ups don't need to do anything. Just focus on your cultivation." "Yes." Ta! 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 The 3 demon exterminators entered the simulated battlefield. "What are the functions of this place?" Bailey Qianzhou asked. Although he had only joined the Sect of all times for a short time, after consuming all kinds of elixirs and experiencing all kinds of martial arts facilities, he was instantly infatuated. "I don't know." Ryu Sinan said, "This is my first time here too." Gong Sunho said excitedly, "I heard from Elder Ding that there are strong opponents here. Defeating them will give you points, which can be used to exchange for martial arts experience and help you break through faster." "Faster?" Bailey Qianzhou said, "How fast?" "Buzz! Buzz!" At that moment, the space trembled slightly. Martial artists in different clothes appeared out of thin air. There were still 500 of them, and at least half of them were at the lower level of the truth-seeking stage. Ryu Sinan put down the stone coffin and gathered energy in his fingers. He smiled and said, "They don't seem friendly. Go!" Huff, huff, huff. In an instant, 3 different auras exploded in the simulated battlefield. There was the power of space, the power of sand, and the power of good and evil. Space cage. Flying sand and gravel. Monkey steals the peach. Boom, 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 boom. The special effects were activated, and waves of energy filled the sky. After being accelerated by 2 times, the 500 simulated martial artists all shattered into nothingness. Huff! Ryu Sinan's breathing was rapid, and his forehead was covered in sweat. Gong Sunho sat on the back of a giant monster formed by the power of sand and grinned. "I haven't had such fun in a long time." Bailey Qianzhou said, "What about martial arts experience?" Buzz! At that moment, the 3 of them were enveloped by some kind of attribute. A prompt sounded in their ears. "Do you want to exchange your current points for martial arts experience?" Although they did not understand, they did not think too much about it and said in unison, "Yes." Ding! Experience exchange successful. Ding! Ding! Huff, huff. The 3 demon exterminators were quickly enveloped by the profound meaning of heaven and earth. A large amount of martial arts experience was forced into their consciousness and energy center. Fuck! Ryu Sinan was usually well-mannered. However, after receiving the martial arts experience, he could not help but swear. Before fighting the monsters, he was in the middle-level truth-seeking realm. After fighting the monsters, he broke through to the upper-level truth-seeking realm. Ding! High-level upper-level truth-seeking realm 11. Jun Changshao, who was reading a comic book adaptation of the novel Meet Again in the Pugilistic World in the study, jumped up from his chair when he heard the prompt. He was overjoyed. "Who broke through?" "I broke through." "I broke through just like that?" In the simulated battlefield, Lu Sinan stood still in a daze. Gong Sunho and Bailey Qianzhou were so envious that they were about to cry. As the 3 great demon exterminators, all of them were in the middle-level truth-seeking realm. How could he break through before us? Because he entered the sect earlier. Because he experienced the pleasure of cheating first. Of course. Although the 2 of them did not break through, because they had a lot of points, they also obtained a lot of profound meaning of martial arts. If they did it a few more times, they could easily break through. After leaving the simulated battlefield, Bailey Qianqiu sat in the cafeteria, eating fried rice and crying. He roared in his heart, "Why didn't the patriarch bail me out a few years ago?" Jun Changshao beside him was also eating and crying. This thing. Why didn't it spawn earlier? Ryu Sinan had no problem breaking through to the upper-level truth-seeking realm, but it would take at least a few thousand years. Now that he had experienced the simulated battlefield, he had broken through easily. This showed how awesome this item was. It was a supreme item, worthy of its name. It's still the same thing. The system said, if you want to get rich, you have to rely on the shop. If you want to get rich, you have to rely on the shop. After being slapped in the face countless times, he finally straightened his back. Ding! High-level upper-level truth-seeking realm 21. Ding! High-level upper-level truth-seeking realm 31. Ding! High-level upper-level truth-seeking realm 35. Ding! Core disciple lower-level truth-seeking realm 1610. Time passed, and the realm of the higher-ups and disciples of the sect of all times was also increasing. The process was not simple, and it could be seen from the system's notifications. It was a little scary. Jun Changshao sat in the main hall, and a smile gradually appeared at the corner of his mouth. The feeling of being invincible in the falling star continent was finally going to appear in the upper realm. Patriarch. At this time, Zhen Dijuan's voice sounded in his ears. Analysis of the eternal starry sky map. There are frequent fluctuations in the underground of the northwest region. It is suspected that a high-level mine is about to appear. Chapter 1632. In just 1 or 2 months, the black and white Rakshasa, Ding Xingwang, Jiang Ye, and the other senior members of the sect had broken through by relying on the simulated battlefield. Of course. The ones who benefited the most were the inner and outer sect disciples. After they entered the core transformation realm, they could enter the simulated battlefield to improve. As long as they had enough points, they could exchange them for a level of martial arts experience. If there was a shortcoming, it would be that only 500 people could enter at a time. The total number of members in the sect of all times had exceeded 100,000. If they entered in batches, it would take a long time. It didn't matter. At present, the epic mission was almost reaching the target, and even exceeding it. Jun Changshao was already very satisfied. There would be plenty of time to let the disciples enjoy the feeling of rapid improvement in the future. Some time ago, he was so anxious that he had constipation. Now, he had a smooth journey. What was even better was that the internal star map of Eternal detected frequent fluctuations under the upper realm. According to preliminary analysis, it was suspected that a high-level mineral vein was about to appear. Real stone? Jun Changshao stood in the cockpit. There were energy fluctuations on the expanded star map, and the area covered was not small. Judging from the frequency, the Taishan spiritual master said, the mineral vein should be large. Let's go. Jun Changshao said, go and dig it out. The mineral veins in the upper realm were ownerless. It would belong to whoever found it first, so he would not hesitate. Patriarch. At this time, Li Qingyang said telepathically, natural phenomenon. Ha! Jun Changshao walked out of the Eternal with a group of senior members. He saw a stream of light slowly rising in the northwest sky as if it had pierced through the heavens and the earth. The Taishan spiritual master frowned. We're exposed. Jun Changshao was speechless. Through the scanning system of the star map, he knew the fluctuations of the underground mineral vein in advance. He could find it without anyone noticing. Now that the phenomenon had appeared, it would definitely alarm the major forces. Get on the ship. Swoosh! 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 The senior members and core disciples of the sect boarded Eternal. Judging from the map, the mineral vein was not small. He had to bring more people. At least, he would have an advantage in a fight. The invasion of the astral spirit realm made him realize a problem. The strength of a single person could not be strong, but the strength of a group must be strong. For example, hundreds of millions of fighter jets and tens of thousands of realms. AI. The system side, the higher-ups have just gotten stronger, and the mineral veins are about to appear. All the coincidences in the world are running to the sect of all times. Nonsense. Jun Changshao said, "Not returning to one's hometown for riches and honor is like traveling at night in brocade clothes. What's more, resources like mineral veins, I naturally have to fight for them." The northwest region had beautiful mountains and clear waters. The heaven and earth attributes here were much denser than the region where the myriad ancient immortal mountain was located. It was very normal for there to be a huge number of mines here. Because the environment was good, there were many forces. At this moment, there were many mystic, truth, and Tao-level sects gathered outside the area where the phenomenon occurred. There were at least 4,000 to 5,000 people. As long as one's eyes weren't blind, they would immediately notice such an obvious stream of light. TSK TSK. A martial artist exclaimed, "Judging from the aura it is releasing, there must be a considerable number of veins underground." The frequency of mineral veins appearing in the upper realm was very high. Anyone with a bit of experience would be able to judge the size of a mineral vein from the degree of light shooting into the sky. AI. Someone said helplessly, "We are destined to only be able to watch from afar with such a large-scale phenomenon." Many small forces and itinerant cultivators knew their limits. This time, they had only come to join in the fun and see how the high-level sects would compete. As for a share of the loot, they wouldn't even leave any scraps for themselves. Swish! Swish! More and more sect martial artists flew over. Judging from their clothes, they were all truth and Tao-level sections. This matter is a little big. There will be a debate later. With such a scale, even the mystic sects have to stand at the back. Will it alarm the immortal sects? Not necessarily. Whoosh! While everyone was discussing, the stream of light in the area where the phenomenon occurred expanded again. The area it covered increased from dozens of miles to hundreds of miles. Damn! It expanded again. This is definitely not a mystic stone mineral vein. It's very likely a real stone mineral vein. As soon as this was said, all the martial artists were shocked. Mystic stones were the most common resource and currency in the upper realm. Real stones of higher quality were extremely rare. If it belonged to such a mineral vein, the major sects would definitely fight over it. Unlike the shock of the passers-by, although the major sects were a little excited, they could not help but calm down. They secretly thought to themselves, there should be ores this time, right? It would not be like the previous time at the green grassland where they waited for a few days only to end up with nothing. At this point, he had to mention that the ancients who hated the whole world because of love and left a trap behind. Although they forcefully suppressed the time of the mineral vein's appearance, after it was released, the phenomenon produced was far less than this time. Therefore, the scale of this mineral vein's appearance could be said to be unusually large. Sigh. The mystic sect powerhouses sighed. If it was an ordinary mystic stone mineral vein, they were still qualified to participate. Now that there was such a big commotion, they really had to settle down and be a spectator like the small forces and itinerant cultivators. Whoosh! Suddenly, the phenomenon expanded again. Oh my God! An old man said in shock, "It's at least covering 1,000 miles. Could it be more precious than real stones?" Hearing this, all the martial artists gasped. If it was more precious than real stones, would it not be Tao stones? In the endless history of the upper realm, this rarely appeared. In the cockpit of Eternal. When the phenomenon area expanded twice, the flickering light spots on the star map continued to expand. Patriarch Jin Dejuan said in shock, "The underground fluctuation area has expanded by dozens of times." Nanny? Jun Changshao hurried over and saw that the red dot on the map was now a red circle. His eyes were burning. It's not real stones buried underground. It might be Dao stones. Inform the Stone Statue Clan. Yes. Inform the Dragon Clan. Yes. Inform the Battle Cavalry Hall Master to send 10,000 mechas and 200,000 devil soldiers. Yes. Jun Changshao gave 3 orders in a row. The news was sent to the Sect of All Times drones through the battleship. Drizzle Hall quickly received the news. Li Luocho was responsible for the transmission and communication. Swoosh! Swoosh! In the calm area of the Battle Cavalry Hall, dozens of members held batons and integrated Diablo into their souls. Their eyes were shining. Under the accompaniment of the high-pitched BGM, they activated the wings behind them and glided out of the Sect of All Times. Whoosh! 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 Light flashed and streaked across the sky. 10,000 mechas and a densely packed devil army. The lineup was quite vast. Buzz! Buzz! In the sky of the deep sea area, the Stone Statue Clan and the Dragon Clan's powerhouses moved out. Then, without hesitation, they entered the teleportation circle on the nearest island and traveled to the northwest area as quickly as possible. Strange. At the place where the phenomenon rose, someone shuddered and said, "I feel that something big is going to happen." Of course. A martial artist said, "With such a large-scale phenomenon, it's very likely that there's a Dao stone mine. It'll definitely be a bloodbath." Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, dozens of mighty streams of light flew over from afar. Celestial Sect. They're here. As everyone exclaimed, they realized that the major sects would not fight. There would not be a bloodbath because, whoosh, while thinking, dozens of powerhouses led by the Ling Tian Celestial Sect arrived at the edge of the phenomenon. They circulated their energy in their dantian and said, "Unrelated people, retreat quickly." The expressions of the powerhouses of the Mystic, Truth, and Path sects changed drastically. Then, they obediently retreated far away. What could they do when an authoritative sect from the upper realm appeared? Whoosh! At this moment, an even more majestic wave of air pressed over from afar. Everyone looked up in shock and saw that the sky seemed to be covered by dark clouds. A huge battleship slowly stopped in midair. The Sect of All Times has taken a fancy to the mine here. Chapter 1633. The 10 great immortal sects had just arrived when Jun Changshao arrived with Eternal. The distance between the two worlds was less than 10 seconds. However, in just 10 seconds, the surrounding atmosphere changed again. At first, the major sects were boiling with passion and were even prepared to fight for the mine. Therefore, the atmosphere was very solemn. When the immortal sects arrived, they were immediately terrified. The atmosphere of a coming storm immediately fell to the lowest point. Authority. Unquestionable. Neither the true sect nor the Dao sect dared to disobey. Actually, the 10 immortal sects were right to come. If they didn't appear, this place would definitely become a tragic slaughterhouse when the mine appeared. Absolute strength and authority suppressed the excitement of the major sects, and the atmosphere calmed down. However, in less than 10 seconds, Jun Changshao arrived on the battleship and with one sentence, the atmosphere became tense again. The Sect of All Times was interested in the mine here? What did he mean? Were they planning to fight with the 10 immortal sects? Awesome! All the martial artists were in awe. Previously, they had heard that the Sect of All Times was going to fight with the Jiehou. Now, it seemed that they were going to fight with the 10 immortal sects. Coincidentally, the Ling Tian immortal sect elder who went to the Jie mountain and came to the mine was the same person. His eyes flashed and he roared, "Jun Changshao, what do you mean by this?" Caw! The cabin opened. Jun Changshao flew out accompanied by the higher-ups of the sect. He hovered in front of the experts of the 10 immortal sects and said calmly, "The meaning is simple. The mind that is about to appear here will be surnamed June from today onwards and named Eternal." If it was just Shen Stone and True Stone minds, he might seriously consider falling out with the immortal sects. Now that the scale was so big, and it might be Tao Stones, he had to fight for it no matter what. There was no denying it. Sometimes, Goshen did things to extremes. But the starting point was for the benefit of the sect. Surnamed June, name Eternal. These words were very arrogant, and it made the martial artists admire him even more. At the same time, it also made the experts of the immortal sects angry. A while ago, they were still discussing this person and thought that he was a potential threat. Today, he went even more overboard. How could they tolerate it? Of course. Jun Changshao added, "If you want to watch the show, I won't chase you away." Jun Changshao. The elder of the Ling Tian celestial sect said angrily, "Heavenly materials and earthly treasures belong to those who are fated to obtain them. The 10 major celestial sects will never allow you to monopolize the mineral veins here." Huh. Jun Changshao laughed heartily, as if his wife was about to give birth. The immortal sect powerhouse's complexion changed again and again. Anger burned in his heart. "Everyone." Jun Changshao withdrew his smile and said with a taut face, "If the top 10 immortal sects understand the principle of heavenly materials and earthly treasures, why did they let the irrelevant people leave after coming here?" Everyone fell silent. They wanted to say something, but they dared not. After all, he still had to live in the upper realm. Offending the immortal sect was the same as digging his own grave. "All right." Jun Changshao said proudly, "Since you 10 great immortal sects are so reasonable, then today, we will fight for the mineral veins with our true abilities. Heavenly materials and earthly treasures could only be obtained by fate." What kind of fate? It all depended on one's fists. Jun Changshao. The elder of the Ling Tian celestial sect said coldly, "Are you openly provoking the 10 major celestial sects?" "Yes." Jun Changshao said indifferently. One word shook the mountains and rivers. The guy who had been in the upper realm for almost 10 years finally had the taste of the lower realm today. The Spirit Spring sect refused to accept it and destroyed it. The Holy Spring sect refused to accept it and fought. The Taishan Shengzong refused to accept it and fought. The Starry Sky Fortress refused to accept it and exploded. Today, it's the 10 major celestial sects' turn. If you have any objections, just fight to your heart's content. Whoever is afraid is a coward. Few. The upper echelons and core disciples of the sect of all times were very discerning. Hearing the patriarch's words, they all released their truth-seeking realm cultivation. Their powerful auras contained iron bones. Whoosh! Whoosh! The murderous power shook the space. Seeing this, the martial artists immediately had a thought in their hearts. Something big was going to happen. Swish! Swish! In the distant sky, the roar of mechas could be heard. 10,000 Diablo warriors quickly flew over and hovered under Eternal. 200,000 Devil Army soldiers in excellent armor lined up neatly. The powerhouses of the 10 major celestial sects had extremely ugly expressions. In just a few short years, they had never thought that the nameless everlasting sect would develop to such an extent that they would dare to challenge them in the firmament without any scruples. This kid. He really shouldn't have stayed. All kinds of vexed emotions gathered in the minds of the celestial sect's powerhouses. At this moment, facing so many forces and itinerant cultivators, how could they be as cowardly as last time in the World Mountain? Jun Changshao. The elder of the Ling Tian celestial sect said angrily, "1-on-1. In terms of numbers, the sect of all times definitely had the advantage. A 1-on-1 battle was undoubtedly the best way." Ha! Jun Changshao said indifferently, "A peak-level truth-seeking realm cultivator wants to challenge a lower-level truth-seeking realm cultivator. You really have the nerve to ask. The elder of the Ling Tian celestial sect was so angry that his face turned red and white. Fine. Jun Changshao said, I agree to the one-on-one battle. The upper echelons of the sect of all times were stunned. Patriarch. Ryu Sinan was about to speak when he was interrupted by Jun Changshao. If I win, the 10 major celestial sects can go back the way you came. If I lose, I'll take my people and leave immediately. I'll come and apologize another day. All right. He was determined. Ryu Sinan, Gong Sun Ho, and the others were silent. The elder of the Ling Tian celestial sect was a little confused. Because he had been put in an awkward position by Jun Changshao, he was flustered and exasperated when he said a one-on-one battle. After calming down, he felt that it was inappropriate. After all, he was much stronger than him, and it would be easy for him to be accused of bullying the weak. However, he never expected that the other party would agree. He had no choice but to agree. Because the system had just given him a side quest, to challenge and defeat the elder of the Ling Tian celestial sect alone. At first, Go Sheng was on the verge of a breakdown. With the overall strength of the sect of all times and the 3 major clans, he was confident that he could fight against the celestial sects. However, in terms of strength, how could he, a lower-level cultivator, fight against a peak-level cultivator? There's still a chance to kill him. The system reminded him, this is such a good opportunity. You can show it off. That makes sense. Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. Previously, when he tested his power in the sect, he sat down and shattered half of the sky. If he used it today, he might be able to win by surprise. This was the reason for accepting the challenge. Of course, Jun Changshao also knew that although the missions given by the system were sometimes difficult, they were not unsolvable. Letting a lower-level cultivator fight against a peak-level cultivator should mean that he had a chance of winning. Are you sure? The elder of the Ling Tian celestial sect was afraid that he was playing with him. I'm sure. Jun Changshao replied calmly. The elder of the Ling Tian celestial sect sneered and said, Everyone, I'll make it clear first. I'm not bullying the younger generation. All the martial artists wanted to spit on his face. If this was not bullying the younger generation, wouldn't they be able to challenge any transformation core or void-piercing realm cultivator? Old man. Jun Changshao shrugged his shoulders and said, to be able to fight against the elegant and graceful me, you can consider yourself to have cultivated a great fortune in your previous life. The corners of the martial artists' mouths twitched violently. If he wanted to act cool, so be it. How could he boast about himself? Did he not feel ashamed? Ding! Must kill, charge 10%. As expected. One sentence and it could be triggered automatically. Author, turn off the lights. Swish! The entire upper realm suddenly fell into absolute darkness. What's going on? Smack! Suddenly, the area of the eternal battleship was lit up. The camera followed and swept past Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, Yi Xingchen, Su Xiaoma, and He Wudi, who were in strange postures. Finally, it stopped on Jun Changshao, who was leaning back and making a heart shape. Move, 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 buy it yourself, I'll buy it for you. Under the accompaniment of the BGM New Treasure Island, Jun Changshao and the 5 disciples quickly gathered together and formed a triangle. Then, they began to move their hands, legs, and butt rhythmically. Everyone in the sect of all times, the powerhouses of the 10 major celestial sects, the onlookers, fuck. Good. Embarrassing. Shameful. Ding. Must kill, charge 20%. 100%. 150%. As Jun Changshao led the 5 core disciples to dance shamefully in front of everyone, the energy gathered instantly broke through the upper limit. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew, slightly cold and harsh. Gulp! The elder of the Ling Tian celestial sect swallowed subconsciously, and beads of sweat gradually appeared on his forehead that was blown away by the wind. Chapter 1634. The effect of the Sure-Kill initiative was that the performer had to perform shameful actions to attract the audience to provide him with endless energy. Jun Changshao boasted that he could only increase it by 10%. Hence, he had no choice but to pull his 5 disciples to dance the Sect of All Time's version of New Bao Island. This time, it exploded. 150%. 200%. 300%, a large amount of shameful energy surged from the hearts of the martial artists. Not only was the upper limit broken again and again, but the aura in the air also became increasingly strange. More and more beads of sweat appeared on the forehead of the High Heaven Celestial Sect Elder. Jun Changshao and his disciples were still dancing shamefully. No martial arts aura was released, but there seemed to be some kind of pressure that was squeezing his mind and soul. Doing such a thing in public is really against the moral code. This is the patriarch of the Sect of All Times. I'm really ashamed of his master, Jinren Tonggu. The other powerhouses of the 10 major celestial sects did not feel the invisible pressure and snorted. To be honest, this kind of behavior was very shameless. However, it was normal that Jun Changshao could do it. After all, acting did not rely on one's face or looks. Why? Yi Xingqian roared in his heart, why would I do such a shameful thing in front of others? Who didn't know that Jun Changshao was shameless? But as the former Night Emperor, he could do morning exercises in the sect. He couldn't bear to dance in front of so many people. Even if he changed the song, for example, Pure Land of Bliss, it wouldn't be so awkward. He was also on the verge of breaking down. He did not have much screen time recently. When he finally appeared, he had to be a backup dancer, 400%, 500%, ding. The Sure-Kill initiative has finished charging. Under the extremely shameful atmosphere, the martial arts technique finally finished charging. The energy was as high as 500%. As the main dancer, if Jun Changshao took off his shirt and danced shirtless, the energy would at least increase by a lot. 100% energy smashed half of the sky. 500% energy, that's enough. Jun Changshao snapped his fingers. The music stopped, and the disciples dispersed. Goshen rubbed his shiny little head with one hand before he looked at the elder of the Ling Tian Celestial Sect. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he said with a smile, "Come." His expression was harmless, and his eyes were innocent. However, the elder from the Ling Tian Celestial Sect broke out in cold sweat when he heard the 2 words. A real peak-level truth-seeking realm cultivator was actually afraid of a low-level truth-seeking realm cultivator. This was unbelievable. Elder Ho. His fellow disciple asked, "Are you all right?" The powerhouses from the 9 sects could also see the change in the expression of the elder from the Ling Tian Celestial Sect. What they didn't know was that Jun Changshao's Sure-Kill strike was a single-target martial skill. When it was accumulating energy, it had already locked onto Elder Ho, and the invisible pressure it created could only be felt by the person involved. "Everyone," Elder Ho said with difficulty, "this kid is a little strange." He wanted to forfeit, but with so many people watching, if he said that, his reputation would go down the drain. He was just a lower-level truth-seeking realm cultivator. How could he be afraid of him? Fight! Elder Ho cheered himself up and quickly adjusted his mentality. He said in a deep voice, "Jun Patriarch, this is not a good place to fight. Let's go somewhere else." "Okay." Thousands of miles away. Jun Changshao, who looked like a little monk, floated in the air with his hands behind his back. Opposite him, Elder Ho's face was still solemn and even a little pale. What's going on? Is Elder Ho afraid? Impossible. Jun Changshao is just a lower-level truth-seeking realm cultivator. Even if he has any tricks up his sleeve, it's impossible for him to shake a peak-level truth-seeking realm cultivator. The powerhouses of the 10 major immortal sects firmly believed that Elder Ho would win. Unlike them, the mentality of the martial artists was more complicated. Some thought that Jun Changshao would lose, while others thought that Jun Changshao would win. Those who thought he would lose were reasonable deductions, and those who thought he would win were gambling. If the patriarch of the sect of all times was not confident, how could he agree to a one-on-one battle? Elder Ho. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said, "You are at the peak of the truth-seeking realm and older than me. Please make the first move." Elder Ho muttered in his heart, "This guy must be setting a trap for me on purpose. If he really makes the first move, he will definitely be known as someone who bullies the weak and takes advantage of his seniority. Humph. How could he be fooled?" Elder Ho said indifferently, "Although you are the master of a sect, I am still of the same generation as Jinren Tonggu. Logically speaking, you should be the one who makes the first move." As expected of someone from a major sect, his words were flawless. "All right." Jun Chang smiled and said, "Deference is no substitute for obedience." Elder Ho was stunned. This guy agreed so readily. Why did it feel like he had still been tricked by him? Elder Ho. Jun Changshao slowly rose into the air and spread his hands. His left hand gathered the power of the fire soul, and his right hand gathered the power of evil. He said proudly, "I have a unique skill called Heavenly Flying Immortal. Today, I will show you my incompetence." Heavenly Flying Immortal? The powerhouses of the 10 major immortal sects sneered. The word immortal represented supreme in the upper realm. It was not something that could be used casually. Whoosh! Elder Ho flicked his sleeve, and the aura and momentum of a top martial artist instantly erupted. His entire person became extremely sage-like. It was strange. Jun Changshao gathered 2 kinds of energy, and the invisible pressure instantly disappeared. Without this feeling to disturb him, Elder Ho naturally would not be afraid of a lower-level truth-seeking realm cultivator. Play with him. In the blink of an eye. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, Jun Changshao, who had flown to a certain height, put his hands together. The spirit of the fire soul and the evil spirit instantly merged, forming a vast airwave. He shouted, "Heavenly Flying Immortal!" Whoosh 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 whoosh. The 2 extremely rare spirits suddenly erupted, turning into a monstrous air wave that erupted from the sky, as if a fierce beast that had been sleeping for thousands of years had awakened from the void. All the martial artists were stunned. Was this the power of a lower-level truth-seeking realm cultivator? Ka ka ka. Ka ka ka. The space was distorted and gradually collapsed. The power and special effects of Jun Changshao's attack this time were not bad, but the powerhouses of the 10 major immortal sects scoffed. Because at this level, it was impossible for him to even shake the upper level, let alone the peak. I'm being too suspicious. When the 2 kinds of spiritual power pressed down, Elder Ho's mentality relaxed. Heavenly Flying Immortal? Heavenly Trash? Buzz! Buzz! Suddenly, the nearby space trembled slightly and quickly folded. This made Elder Ho, who had relaxed his vigilance, change his expression. The pressure that had disappeared suddenly surged in his heart dozens of times, hundreds of times. Oh no! Boom! A deafening explosion, accompanied by billowing dust, instantly resounded throughout the upper realm. The space caved in crazily, and the earth trembled crazily, affecting an area of tens of thousands of miles. In the universe's starry sky, the entire plane could be seen shaking. Whoosh! Whoosh! Jinren Tonggu and Masato Kitano flew above the extreme cave abode and looked in the northwest direction with a pale expression, looking at the peach-shaped dent that was gradually collapsing. In the small village. The storyteller said in surprise, "This power is a little strange." Outside the anomaly area. The space collapsed into pieces, and dust covered the sky and the sun. Plop! Plop! The powerhouses of the 10 major celestial sects who were closest to the explosion just now fell to the ground one after another, their eyes filled with horror and horror. They had captured the process of Jun Changshao's attack. At first, he controlled the 2 kinds of spiritual power to press down with both hands, but halfway through, he suddenly twisted his buttocks, and then, there was a shocking explosion. Ding! Side mission completed. Obtained 10,000 reputation points. Ding! Sect reputation points, 11,000. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the side mission. Obtained hidden rewards, Opening Seal Talisman X1, Extraordinary Patriarch Ball X1, Ultimate Celestial Sword, Unsharpened, X1. Whoosh whoosh. The wind whistled, blowing away the dust. Jun Changxiao's hands were behind his head, and he was in a reclining position in the middle of the collapsed space. He said lazily, "The mine that is about to appear belongs to the sect of all times. 10 major celestial sects, get lost." The camera panned down, and there was also a core-shaped pit on the ground. Elder Ho was sunken in the deepest part, and because he was buried in the soil, only a few fingers could be seen, and they would twitch from time to time. Hack! Victory! Chapter 1635. Tens of thousands of miles of the sky caved in, thousands of miles of the ground caved in, and countless mountains, rocks, and trees were reduced to ashes. This was the destructive power brought about by the 500% sure kill charge. Was Elder Ho alright? Judging from the trembling of his exposed fingers, he seemed to still be alive. However, after being bombarded by such a powerful force, even if he was lucky enough to survive, he would have to lie in bed for at least a few decades. The remaining power dissipated, but the cracks were still there. It would take time for this level of damage to heal itself. Jun Changxiao, who was suspended in the air, could not help but sing loudly, "How lonely it is to be invincible." When the 10 major immortal sects and the martial artists heard this, their minds were instantly damaged, and they almost vomited blood on the spot. In this regard, the sect of all times was more experienced. When they saw that the patriarch was singing loudly, they immediately closed their ears. However, they were quite surprised. They had seen Jun Changxiao use his butt to attack in the sect before. Today, when he used it again, its power was far greater than before. The powerhouses of the 10 major immortal sects were greatly shocked. The two powers that guy used were not very strong, so why did they erupt with such terrifying power? You guys! Jun Changxiao turned his small face and looked at the powerhouses of the 10 major immortal sects. Can you get lost now? Regardless of whether he won by cheating or not, he had won, so he had the right to be arrogant. Of course. Jun Changxiao said coldly, "If you're not convinced, you can continue to challenge me." Awesome! Everyone admired him in their hearts. His heavenly flying puppet should be some kind of powerful supernatural power. The stronger it was, the greater the price it had to pay. Now that he had defeated a peak truth-seeking realm cultivator and dared to continue challenging the immortal sects, how domineering was this? The martial arts world worshipped the strong. What Jun Changxiao did today was recognized by many itinerant cultivators and forces. A familiar routine, a familiar rhythm. That's right. Jun Changxiao had proven himself in front of the world by killing a peak truth-seeking realm cultivator with one move. From today onwards, there must be a place for him in the upper realm, a place for the sect of all times. In the past, whenever Jun Changxiao was mentioned, all martial artists would think of Jinren Tonggu. After all, Jun Changxiao was his disciple. He dared not say that the entire upper realm would remember him now, but when news of this battle spread and his name was mentioned again, they would remember him as the patriarch of the sect of all times, Gongsun Jun Go Sheng. Schwa! In order to set off the patriarch's pretentious atmosphere, Xiao Ziji took out a chair and fixed it in mid-air with his spiritual energy. However, Jun Changxiao did not sit down. The side effect of using one-punch sure kill was losing all of his hair. The side effect was pain in his buttocks. It felt like having a hemorrhoid relapse. He didn't dare to sit. The faces of the experts from the 10 major immortal sects turned as red as pig liver. Although Elder Ho had agreed to a one-on-one duel and he would leave if he lost, asking him to scram was too much. Swish! Swish! At this moment, the experts from the stone statue race and the dragon race rushed over. They stood in front of Jun Changshao like bodyguards. One of the experts from the immortal sects was more perceptive. Seeing that the situation was not right, he cupped his hands and said coldly, "The mountains will not change and the rivers will flow forever. We will meet again in the underworld. Let's go." Shwa! 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 The martial artists from the 10 major immortal sects quickly retreated. They did not look back throughout the entire process. They came and left in a hurry. The main reason was that the 2 major races were here. Otherwise, they would not have let this matter rest. Everyone. Jun Changshao said in a clear voice, "Go back and tell your noble sect master that if you have any enmity, settle it openly and don't play tricks in the dark. Otherwise, don't blame this king for being ruthless." This incident would definitely incur the hatred of the immortal sects. Since they had come this far, some things had to be said openly. Humph! The experts from the 10 major immortal sects sneered. This was to defend their last bit of face in front of the various martial artists. As for Elder Ho, he was dug out by his fellow sect members. Sure enough, he was still breathing, but his injuries were serious. As it was too bloody, he could only be pixelated throughout. The immortal sects left. He's admitting defeat. The patriarch of the sect of all times is too awesome. Watching the immortal sects leave angrily, the various martial artists discussed. The shock in their hearts was even more intense. After all, ever since the immortal sects became the authority of the upper realm, no one had been able to make them suffer. This kid. A wandering martial artist said solemnly, he might change the world that has existed for hundreds of thousands of years. Someone said, I'm afraid the 10 major immortal sects won't tolerate him. Yes. A wandering martial artist said, this sect that ascended from the lower realm will face the punishment of the 10 major immortal sects sooner or later. Many people saw through it. Jun Changshao dared to challenge the immortal sects today. The latter would definitely be on guard. It was only a matter of time before the 2 sides clashed. Everyone. Jun Changshao glanced at the various martial artists in the distance and said with a smile, you've seen the show and eaten the melon. Isn't it time to leave? They had just watched the show. They could not watch the show now. There was no guarantee that after the mine appeared, some forces controlled by greed would cause trouble. Therefore, they had to clear the place. Goodbye. Goodbye. The various martial artists left one after another. They were still very concerned about the underground mine. However, the sect of all times had sent so many monsters and soldiers, and there were also experts from the 2 races protecting it. Unless they did not want to live, who would dare to snatch it? A moment later, only the sect of all times was left at the place where the phenomenon appeared. Under the Patriarch's orders, Zhen Dejuan led some members of the array hall and began to set up isolation arrays along the stream of light. Clear the place. Enclosure. From this point alone, they were very professional. Patriarch. Inside Eternal, Shengguan Xinyao sat in front of the star map and said, the frequency of the ground fluctuations has increased. It is estimated that the mine will break out of the ground in 10 days. This high-level battleship from the star spirit world could not only capture the mine in advance, but it could also estimate the time. It was really very convenient for Go Sheng. Buzz! Buzz! Streams of light appeared one after another, surrounding the place where the phenomenon appeared. The members of the War Cavalry Hall patrolled the area in groups of 2s and 3s, creating the feeling of a military base. Shengguan Xinyao and the other members of the array hall stared at the star map and analyzed the data. They looked very professional. Jun Changshao sat in the captain's seat. His sitting posture was a little strange because he could still feel pain coming from his butt. Patriarch. Sun Bukong observed his expression and said, are your hemorrhoids acting up again? Your disciple has been studying the rectal books in the battleship recently. Do you want me to find time to cut it off for you to prevent future troubles? Scram! Jun Changshao rolled his eyes at him. As he spoke, his mind entered the spatial ring and took out a thin sword that was 1 meter long and 1 inch wide. The sword and scabbard were simple and unadorned, but it also gave off a sense of age. Ultimate immortal sword? Jun Changshao grabbed the hilt and said, could it be an immortal artifact? Patriarch. Just as he was about to draw the sword, he heard Shengwan Xinyao's hurried voice. The underground wave is changing. Swish! Jun Changshao immediately retracted his mind and looked at the star map. The frequency of the red circle was at least a few times faster than before. Boom! 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 Outside, the area where the phenomenon appeared, the ground shook violently and gradually cracked like the bottom of a dry river. The mine has appeared. Swish! Swish! Streams of light flew out like monkeys in the sky. Damn! Jun Changshao's eyes widened. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others outside also widened their eyes. Within his field of vision, numerous flowing lights that were like flames floated in the sky. They seemed to be real yet illusory at the same time, and they were like drifting specters. There were at least a few 100,000 of them. The most shocking thing was that when the ground cracked, an even bigger stream of red light appeared, like a huge fireball. No, like the sun slowly rising from the east. Clang! A sharp cry resounded through the sky, and the huge red fireball gradually spread out. First, it transformed into a pair of flaming wings, then it gathered into a body and limbs covered in flames, and finally formed a peacock's head and intricate flaming tail. 2 names instantly appeared in Jun Changxiao's mind. Phoenix. Vermilion bird. Sect of all times. The sleeping rooster suddenly opened its eyes, got up, and put its wings on its waist. It said proudly, my spring has finally arrived. Chapter 1636. After waiting for 10 days in the Vision Land, a bird that resembled both a phoenix and a vermilion bird appeared, shrouded in crimson flames. Jun Changshao was dumbfounded. The higher-ups and disciples of the sect of all times were dumbfounded as well. Was it not the birth of the mineral vein? How did it become the birth of a strange beast? Clang! The beast of crimson flames emitted a sharp cry once again. It contained some kind of king's power, interfering with the hundreds of thousands of floating light streams, causing them to gradually transform into a similar form and gather in front of it. This is... Gong Sun Ho said solemnly, the Vermilion Bird Clan. The Vermilion Bird Clan? Jun Changshao had been in the upper realm for so long and had a good relationship with all the major clans, but he had never heard of this clan. The Vermilion Bird has the bloodline of the divine beast, the Vermilion Bird. They were originally one of the thousands of clans in the upper realm, but due to their own characteristics, they would disappear every 100,000 years. After another 100,000 years, they would be reborn from the ashes, Ryu Sinan explained. Rebirth? You can say that. What a strange clan. The Vermilion Bird clan is few in number, but their strength is not inferior to the 3 major clans. However, because they disappear for 100,000 years, rebirth for 100,000 years, and come and go for 200,000 years, there are very few records about them in the upper realm. Jun Changshao stared at the bird shrouded in flames. He quickly remembered the egg obtained from the dimensional battlefield. Did it not claim that it had the bloodline of the Vermilion Bird after hatching? The two look completely different. One looked like a phoenix while the other looked like a rooster. Jun Changshao would never believe that they were related by blood, unless, fuck. There's something wrong with the incubator. The little dragon was a genuine 5-clawed dragon. After going through the incubator, it mutated into a small lizard. The egg also mutated and turned into a rooster. Perhaps someone had said that this contracted beast did not have a presence. No. Its presence was very strong. Because it had a special power after mutating, it would stand on the peak and cry out loud every day, allowing the disciples to live each day in high spirits. The improvement of everyone's strength was inseparable from the rooster, just like how every inch of the sect's land was inseparable from Paige's hard work. Although these contracted beasts don't want to appear in the camera, they contribute to the sect every moment, so we need to remember them in our hearts. We can't just ask them who they are every time they appear. When did you collect it? Such heart-chilling words. Back to the main topic. The gigantic vermilion bird hovered in the sky, surrounded by hundreds of thousands of smaller vermilion birds. The scene could only be described as beautiful. However, when they discovered that there were humans nearby, an unfriendly glint appeared in their eyes. Clang, the giant vermilion bird cried out again. The hundreds of thousands of vermilion birds seemed to have received an order. They released even more intense flames, dragging streams of light as they attacked the nearby disciples of the sect of all times. Swish! Swish! Fireballs fell from the sky like cannonballs. Shield Mountain! Xiao Ziji shouted, and his whole body transformed into a mecha. Layers of enchantments were instantly arranged around him, forming an absolute defense. Pang pang pang! Boom boom boom! The flames collided, and the scorching heat swept across. However, after the violent explosions, Xiao Ziji stood proudly on the spot. Not a single enchantment was broken. After breaking through to the lower-level truth-seeking realm, his defense was even stronger than before. He deserved the title of the #1 tank in the sect of all times. Swish! 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 The vermilion birds didn't stop because of this. They launched a second attack, and the range of the fireballs was extremely wide. Swish! However, just as the rain of fire was about to fall, an extremely cold stream of light seemed to tear through space and directly obliterated all the cannonballs, turning them into flames all over the sky. Yi Xingqian withdrew his sky halberd and stood in front of Xiao Ziji. His muscular body and arrogant face could be described as cool. On the other side, Su Xiaoma and Li Fei kicked away the cannonballs that were flying at them. There were tens of thousands of attacks launched by the vermilion birds. It was impossible for a few core disciples to deal with them, so Diablo took the initiative to fly over, using its steel body to block the storm. Swish! Right at that moment, Lu Qianqian flew over, dragging a white light behind her. She stood in front of the mech, facing the dense fireballs alone. The text on the back of her hand activated, and her black hair that was fluttering in the wind quickly turned silver white, and a strange array pattern appeared under her feet. Swish! Swish! She made a seal with both hands. Arctic storm. Whoosh whoosh! Lu Qianqian's body rippled with an extremely cold aura visible to the naked eye, crazily spreading in all directions. Wherever it passed, layers of frost were left behind. Under the sunlight, it was dazzling. The vermilion birds walked the path of fire. When faced with the powerful cold power of an ice-type martial artist, the final result was that they would be extinguished upon contact. Clang! The giant vermilion bird raised its head and cried. It immediately turned around and rushed toward Lu Qianqian, who was spreading the cold aura to suppress the vermilion birds. As its body moved, the surrounding flames seemed to instantly fill the entire sky. Swish! Swish! The black and white Rakshasa, Old Ding, and the other senior members of the sect flew over quickly. They then blocked the path of the vermilion bird and poured the power of true spirit into their hands. Whoosh whoosh! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! The monstrous flames covered the sky like waves. Not only did it raise the surrounding temperature, but it also brought great pressure to them. At this moment, Ryu Sinan and Gong Sun Ho flew out of the main battleship and stopped in front of the senior members. The power of space and gravel burst out at the same time. However, they secretly complained in their hearts, this bird is not inferior to the peak of the truth-seeking realm. Although the two of them had risen to the upper level through the simulated battlefield, they were still unable to compete with the peak, let alone the king of the vermilion birds who had just achieved nirvana. Since they could not withstand it, why did they come out? Because this was Jun Changxiao's order. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh! The scorching flames continued to press forward. As the temperature rose, the space gradually distorted and collapsed. Based on the current situation, the powerful aura of this giant vermilion bird was completely enough to crush the senior members of the sect of all times. If they insisted on fighting it head-on, they would definitely die. Even so, Ryu Sinan, Gong Sun Ho, and the others did not retreat because they remembered the principle of the sect of all times, which was to be firm and unyielding. What a pity! Countless isolation arrays were gathered outside the place where the phenomenon appeared. They were not destroyed for the time being, so the scene of the sect of all times fighting against a giant vermilion bird could not be seen by the world. Whoosh! The scorching flames pressed down fiercely, and the aura of death surged in their hearts. However, at this critical moment, the childlike Jun Changxiao flew out of the main battleship and stood above the giant vermilion bird in the blink of an eye. He struck a pose of a baseball player throwing a ball and shouted, "Go, Patriarch Ball!" Whoosh! A stream of light flew out rapidly as if piercing through the void. The giant vermilion bird, which had focused all its energy on the senior members of the sect of all times, panicked. Bam! Suddenly, he was hit on the head. Whoosh! A dazzling stream of light quickly appeared and enveloped the vermilion bird as if it had turned into a large net. It did not have time to cry before it completely disappeared in midair. The monstrous flames extinguished, and the temperature returned to normal. Ryu Sinan, Gong Sun Ho, and the others immediately sweated on their foreheads. If that big guy had disappeared a little later, they would have been burned to ashes by now. Whoosh! Jun Changxiao flew over and summoned the transcendent patriarch ball that was suspended in midair. He infused his spiritual senses into it and spied on the bound pocket-sized vermilion bird. He grinned and said, "From now on, you're my pet." Chapter 1637. The Vermilion Bird clan rarely appeared in the upper realm due to their unique characteristics, but their overall strength was not inferior to the three major clans. Especially when the king of the clan underwent nirvana, its strength would be greatly improved. This time, when they appeared in the mineral vein, they created such a big scene to announce to the world that the Vermilion Bird clan was back. Unfortunately, Jun Changxiao was worried that someone would come to steal, so he set up a circle of isolation formations in advance. Therefore, the fireworks inside were so beautiful that the upper realm did not see it at all. Not returning to one's hometown when one was rich was like traveling at night. What was even more tragic was that the Vermilion Bird King that underwent nirvana chirped a few times as soon as it appeared. It did not even have the chance to attack before it was sucked into the extraordinary Patriarch Ball. As long as this item hit its target, regardless of its strength, it would have to sign a master-servant contract with the user unconditionally. Therefore, Go Sheng was right. From now on, the Vermilion Bird King was his pet. They came here to mine, and in the end, they completed the side mission and were rewarded with the Patriarch Ball, which allowed them to successfully capture a clan boss. This was probably a chance. Woo! Woo! The Vermilion Birds howled in grief. Without their leader's command, they were like a lone boat lost in the ocean. Swoosh! Jun Changxiao waved and threw the extraordinary Patriarch Ball. The lines outlined on it shone brightly, and immediately, a huge vermilion bird appeared out of thin air. In the sky, the flames were still as hot as before, but it was obviously much more restrained. Greetings, Master. It lowered its noble head, and its tone could be said to be respectful. Ryu Sinan, Gong Sun Ho, and the others collapsed. The Patriarch suddenly flew out, smashed the vermilion bird with the ball, and then, completely subdued it. This was too fast. It can transform into a human form. Whoosh! The flames that gathered around it quickly converged, and the huge vermilion bird gradually shrank into a young man in his early 20s with red hair and vigor. Don't say. This guy was quite handsome. He had completely defeated his master. Jun Changshao did not care, because beasts could transform into human forms as they wished. To put it bluntly, they could do whatever they wanted, and it could not be compared to him who was natural. He Tue. The Vermilion Bird King had become Jun Changshao's contract beast, and the Vermilion Birds had to listen to his orders, so in the bottom cabin of eternity, they flew in neatly, to invade the upper realms first. To invade the upper realm, and instantly to summon 200 million fighter aircrafts. Done. After putting everything away, Jun Changshao looked at the area where the ground had collapsed and said, judging from the majestic aura it's emitting, there must be more ore veins underground. As expected. When he flew in with the higher-ups, he saw many thumb-sized, resplendent ores embedded in the mud. Patriarch to the heavens, to Tao heavens, to the earth spiritual, be to the spirit, stones, and then, spiritual spirit bird. To be exact, God, spiritual, and, then, have, be. The ore harvester landed in front of the ore vein. Whoosh! Shio! Many spider-like digging puppets crawled out and waved their arms to collect the Earth spiritual spirit bird king. This, Ryu Sinan and Gong Sun Ho were stunned. The black and white Rakshasa who had seen the Earth spiritual spirit bird king were calm. Master. The humanoid vermilion bird said, not only are there a large number of Earth spiritual spirit bird king, but there is also a mother of Earth spiritual spirit bird king. Mother of Earth spiritual spirit bird king. Jun Changshao was so excited that he almost jumped up. Previously, he had obtained a mother of Earth spiritual spirit bird king, and it was still being nurtured under the sect. If he could obtain an even higher mother of Earth spiritual spirit bird king, this trip would be a great harvest. A few hours later, the Earth spiritual spirit bird king had dug up all the Earth spiritual spirit bird king. After careful calculation, he had obtained a total of 1 billion Earth spiritual spirit stones. In terms of quantity, it could not be compared to the 10 billion Earth spiritual spirit stones, but because the energy was 10 times higher, it was more or less the same. Awesome! Jun Changshao shouted. The value of 1 billion Earth spiritual spirit stones was much higher than 10 billion Earth spiritual spirit stones. And the mother of the Tao stone. Jun Changshao said, we must find it. Under the lead of the vermilion bird, they had only dug a few hundred feet when the apple-like mother of Earth spiritual spirit bird appeared in their field of vision. This thing was very different from the mother of Earth spiritual spirit stones. Especially the flowing light that lingered around it, it contained an extremely majestic heaven and earth attribute and profound mysteries, making people want to take a bite out of it. From today onwards, Jun Changshao picked up the mother of Earth spiritual spirit bird king and said, your surname is Jun, and your name is Wanggu. Outside world. Although many martial artists were forced to leave due to fear of the sect of all times, they did not go too far. Instead, they squatted in a certain area and quietly waited. There was definitely a Tao stone vein hidden underground. There were only a few of them that were unearthed, so no one wanted to miss it. Strange. Why is there still no movement? After waiting for 10 days, the flowing light dissipated. However, the mine did not appear for a long time, causing suspicion to arise in the hearts of the martial artists. Buzz! Another day passed. The space in their field of vision ruptured on a large scale and quickly recovered. The martial artists who were proficient in array Tao instantly determined that this was a situation that would only occur when the array was removed. They exclaimed in surprise, when did they set up the array? We didn't notice it at all. Should we go take a look? Let's wait a little longer. If we anger Jun Patriarch, it will be troublesome. Alright. Everyone suppressed their thoughts and waited for a few more days. After confirming that there were no changes in the area, they gathered their courage and flew over. The ground cracked and stretched for a long time. What a big pit. It's definitely a Tao stone vein. Strange, where are the people from the sect of all times? Let's go in and take a look. Everyone flew into the depths of the cracked ground and stopped in front of the mine. Seeing that their surroundings were empty, they all looked at each other in shock. Where are the ores? Were they dug out by the sect of all times? That's too fast. Although there was an isolation array and no one saw the process of the mine appearing, such a large mine, even if they had enough people, it was impossible to dig it all out. Indeed. It would take at least a few months for an ordinary small and medium-sized magnetite mine to be carefully excavated. For such a large Tao stone vein, it would take at least a few years. Sigh. Someone shook his head and said, "Let's go, let's go." They did not see the birth of the mine, nor did they see a single ore. This trip from afar was a complete waste of time. Ling Tian Immortal Sect. The leaders of the 10 great sects sat in a row. There was a difference in age, but at this moment, their expressions were the same. They were all furious. Previously, the Immortal Sect had held a meeting, but those who participated were only some of the upper echelons. Now that all the leaders of the sect were here, it could be seen that there was something important to discuss. Patriarch Lin. The patriarch of the Supreme Immortal Sect, who was sitting on the left, said angrily, "This Jun Changshao is getting more and more overboard. We, the 10 great immortal sects, must fight back." That's right. The patriarch of the hidden immortal sect agreed. If we don't teach this kid a lesson, how can we rule the upper realm in the future? The other leaders nodded frequently, as if they had reached a consensus. They could tolerate bullying the realm hall, but snatching a Tao stone vein was unbearable. Sigh. Lin Haoyan said helplessly, "This Jun Changshao has the support of the Stone Statue clan and the Dragon clan. If we go against him, it's equivalent to starting a war with the two clans. If we let this kid continue to develop, I'm afraid that our right to speak in the upper realm will be taken away," the patriarch of the hidden immortal sect said. "In my opinion," the Supreme Immortal Sect said coldly, "why don't we directly use our absolute strength to destroy the sect of all times?" "You're going?" Lin Haoyan's words stunned him. What Jun Changshao is threatening is our position in the upper realm. Since he wants to destroy it, everyone must participate. No one can stay out of it, the patriarch of the hidden immortal sect said. All right. The few big shots agreed. Seeing that they were all furious and filled with righteous indignation, Lin Haoyan thought for a moment and said, "This is no small matter. We need to plan carefully. Isn't that guy relying on the Stone Statue clan and the Dragon clan? We can imitate our ancestors and seal the ancestral lands of the two clans. When the time comes, the sect of all times won't be able to do anything alone. We can definitely destroy it easily," the patriarch of the hidden immortal sect suggested. Good idea. Sect of all times. Jun Changshao stood in front of the main hall, looked up at the sky, and said, "The tree wants to be still, but the wind won't stop." You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.